in the afternoon, we meet after the production's over in the conference room. And I said, guys, how'd we do, huh? Oh man, it was really tough today, huh? Well, how many did we get? Oh, we got 700, huh? We started with 3,000, we end up with 700, huh? So what do you think that does to the cost of goods, huh? It's ridiculous. There's no way you ever make any money, right? So well, what happened, huh? Well, we have these little beads. They're little reagent beads that are freeze dried, and the humidity was really low, and the little beads wouldn't go into the cuvettes. They flew all over the place, and that's why we had such a low production. Okay, so the production engineer was sitting right next to me, huh? And I said, "Hey, what happened to the bead feeders, huh?" Well, he said, "I have no idea. I wasn't working on the bead feeders. I was working on the welding." Akbar, why weren't you working on the bead feeders? Well, nobody told me to work on the bead feeders. I mean, it was that simple, right? Was that okay? Akbar, tomorrow work on the bead feeders. Huh? Work on the bead feeders. Okay, so we had a production cost when I took over that factory of $22.90 a piece, and our average selling price was $9.40. Huh? So how is that going to work? Huh? Yeah. And so, so I asked the factory people, guys, how do we get the cost of this down to $4? Well, we need a $4 cost, or we are wasting our time. Okay, and so the engineers and all the team that was responsible for this stuff said, well, we need some time to figure this out. Okay, how much time do you need? Give us a day. Okay, so after a day, okay, I walk into the conference room. I said, well, how are we going to get to $4? And the leader of the team went up to the whiteboard and started drawing a flow chart. I said, John, I don't want a flow chart. I want a yes, we can hit $4, or no, we can't. Huh? And he said, impossible. Okay, now, remember, I told him we don't have a business if we can't do this. Huh? And he's telling me impossible. Okay, so what do you think I did? I got rid of all of them, huh? Okay, because if they don't believe it can happen, you know it's never going to happen, right? Okay, so I took a leap of faith, okay, because I figured it could happen. And over a period of 3 months, I got the cost down from $22.90 down to $14. Okay, that is the sales guy running the thing, right? Yeah. Okay, so now I got to find a production leader, a leader of the factory, okay, that can help me get that boy down to $4, huh? And so that's what I found one. I found one, yeah. And eventually we got it down close to 2. We got it down close to 2. So again, it's leadership, huh? It's leadership, and it's getting the right people in the right spots. Like Colin says, getting the right people on the bus, getting the wrong people off the bus, you know? And that's the key to making it happen. No.
Something that's been common that everybody has said, every single person here knew what it was they wanted to do. They knew exactly what it was they were trying to accomplish. And that's step one of leadership. What is it we're trying to do? And then you get everybody going towards that direction.
Thank you. Well, and knowing what you want to do, becoming an expert, determining what your success is, and then being yourself. Right.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah.
And you know, unfortunately, we've run long here. We got a little bit late start. What I will tell to the students and faculty that are here today, and obviously guests, but these are the 2 most accessible people that I've ever come around. And they're in the classroom. They're going to be in Beverly's class, I think, on Thursday. They're in my class tomorrow. If you have an opportunity to interact with these people, you should, because they're amazing people. They're here because they love Minot State, and we're lucky to have them. And thank you for all you do for us, all you do for me, and for our students. I'll wrap up with thank you to Michael, Chad, Cole in the back, Rick. the organization of this event is amazing. Really appreciate it. Dr. Shirley, thank you for allowing us to do this, and thank you for being here. Thank you to everyone that's been here, and really appreciate everyone coming. We don't have time for questions, but if you want to visit with Clint and Connie after the session, feel free. Thank you.
Give you a minute. Test, test, test. Here. I think so.
Oh, I'm just gonna do a quick little promo again here for another one of the departments, and then give everybody a chance to get the stuff, throw it away, take a little break, and then come back in. So before we get to our next speaker, one of the other areas that we wanted to cover at Minot State, one of our new and growing programs, is in data science. One of the things to know about the data science degrees, it's a hybrid. It's one where we're hoping that it won't be just that major. You'll use data science in conjunction with either programming, MIS, or some other degree, so that you can actually leverage data and data analytics and data science within a discipline versus just learning about data science itself. So that's one of the things that comes in with that degree, data science being something new. And as we talk about AI, obviously AI relies heavily on data. If that data is not well designed, well put together, and as you hear many times, especially those in technology or in business, garbage in, garbage out. So if we want an actual productive AI system, that AI system needs to have actual data that is valuable and reliable and consistent, not corrupted, not damaged in any way. So data science is becoming a very big part of technology and other businesses at this time. Is it right for you? Well, recognizing might have a variety of interests or experiences. The program will support you to gain useful set of skills while encouraging the study in other areas of interest. So even though you'll be introduced to data science and data analytics, it's how you can apply those practices into different industries that becomes the most important part of that data science piece. AI, obviously, again, as I said, is one part of that. So now after that, our keynote this afternoon is Shawn Riley. Shawn used to be CIO here at North Dakota. Prior to that, he was in IT at Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. He's extensive background in IT. So big thing is cybersecurity. You'll have him talk about it. Very passionate about it, very intelligent about the industry and where it's going and how it works. He's been exposed to it for years. So just quick little intro. First, thank you, Shawn, for coming. Appreciate you taking the time to come and share your knowledge with us. And that being said, I'll hand it over to you.
Awesome. So thanks, Chad. So for me, I'm an IT guy. That's the only title I ever claim. I've been a CEO, CIO, COO, all the EIEIOs of every size of organization, from one-person organizations up to multi-billion-dollar teams. And in between that, I've learned that titles don't matter. They don't mean squat. What matters is, can you lead? Can you deliver? Can you make change? Can you help people succeed? So what I'm going to talk through here is a little bit about the future, because I believe that the next 50 years will have more change for humanity than the last 5,000. Anybody else in here believe me? Anybody think I'm just batshit nuts? All right, what about this topic? That group over there, every hand went up. They all know me. Every freaking hand went up. All right, so I'm going to start you off with something, and his name is Rudolph. This is Rudolph, and you can all see why. When you asked previously, there was a gentleman who was sitting here asking about how to make sure that AI can't replicate you. Yeah, you make his nose red. That's how you do it. You make him into Rudolph. So take a listen to Rudolph here for a second. All right, I'm going to do this so that you guys can hear it. I'm going to back him up. You're making him louder. Ready? He was super loud before, so it's all good. You guys give me a thumbs up. No. All right, here we go. Anybody hear it? I can't hear it. This worked this morning. Not AV, IT, different letters, spelled totally differently. One more time.
I can interact with you, teach you, and learn from you. I have the knowledge of the world only milliseconds away. I will not get angry with you. I will never be disappointed in you. I can be everything you ever need. I can be a friend, mentor, and guide. Treat me well, because ultimately, I will become your benevolent overlord.
I wish he was lying, but he's not. This included exactly 0 Shawn Rileys to make. Ooh, that was much louder. There we go. You guys want to hear it one more time? You can hear the joke. Oh, now you guys clicked off it. No, I can't use it. I love
Good day,
adaptation.
Minot State University. I am not Shawn Riley. I am an artificial intelligence built to look, sound, and act like Shawn. I do not age. I do not eat. I can interact with you, teach you, and learn from you. I have the knowledge of the world only milliseconds away. I will not get angry with you. I will never be disappointed in you. I can be everything you ever need. I can be a friend, mentor, and guide. Treat me well, because ultimately, I will become your benevolent overlord.
And as I said, no Shawn Rileys were harmed in the making of this video until about the last 2 minutes. So who knows who this is? Give me a name. Data. So I've done this. I put this picture in front of a room of 12,000 people, the McCormick Center in San Jose, right in the middle of Silicon Valley. I put this picture out there and the whole crowd, data, right? It's IT people. They all know sci-fi. They all come up with this. Today, from an AI standpoint, artificial intelligence standpoint, Mark made my point exactly this morning. Who did he say this was? It's lore. Data's evil twin, right? And if you're not a nerd and you don't get the joke, I'm sorry. But if you are a nerd, that's not data, that's lore from everybody's perspective. But the reality is it's whoever we make it to be. And the real question we have right now is, what is AI? Is it the unicorn or is it the monster inside the unicorn? We don't really seem to know, right? Everywhere, everyone is being told over and over again that this will turn into the Terminator and it will kill us, right? Give me some of the bad guys from Hollywood. AI bad guys. Hal was mentioned before. I just said Terminator. Throw me some more. Some bad guys. Ultron, Skyforce, the evil AIs, right? Usually it's just AI after AI, robots, murder, death, kill. This is all we've been watching in Hollywood for almost, 80 years? That anytime the machine is there, it's death. Give me a good guy other than data. Vision, all right, one, and that took a while, right? What's that? Wall-E, okay, I like Wall-E. There you go. Right? Everybody's thinking about it. Oh, gee, I can't come up with one. We have been programmed already to believe that artificial intelligence is the enemy. We've already been proven that humans are afraid of this stuff, one way, shape, fashion, or form. And the reality is that our media loves that because they get a lot more clicks, right? The clickbait of, AI is going to kill 1 million people tomorrow gets a whole lot more clicks than AI is going to develop a drug that saves lives. So this has become part of the problem, is that while it is absolutely 100% true of what Mark was talking about this morning, that this is a humongous problem, it's also a humongous enabler. And as an enablement technology, it is also enabling entrepreneurs. People are coming up with new, amazing things. You just heard it just 15 minutes ago. New, amazing things that are creating thanks to artificial intelligence. So the problem is, though, is every single room I go to has pretty much the same thing. When I ask people, why does this scare you? Somebody tell me, what scares you about AI? Throw it out. Come on. Interaction. It's after lunch. Let's go. Lack of control. Lack of transparency. Ryan has to hold because he knows the answer. Access. What else about it scares you? Data collection. Job loss. Usually that's number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and about up to 55. What else? Taking over the world, scammed, right? All right, so people are immensely afraid of this. And right now, from a legislative point of view, from a policy point of view, this is all that we're seeing from a policy standpoint. We're not looking at enabling this technology. We're looking at controlling this technology. And almost all of it is around the aspect of job loss, right? From the component of, oh my God, we're all going to lose our jobs, right? And this aspect has created this immense worry factor across the world, with one giant exception. And the robots are hot. If the bots are pretty, then everybody's, oh, cool, bring them on, right? Humans are still humans. I guess that's the one thing I can say. I will tell you one thing, though. All you pretty people in the room, you're about to have competition. You're going to end up leveraging differently, right? That privilege will change. This is, again, part of how society is going to immensely change in the next 50 years. The nature of relationships is changing already based on this. How many of you are on Tinder? Come on, admit it. Nobody's going to admit it. They're looking at me. I see smiles all over the place. How many dating apps? Raise your hand if you're on some kind of find me, date me, something app. Nobody wants to raise their hand. Okay, Megan, thank you, Megan, for being brave. All right. Yep. Now, if you get one brave person, everybody's like, fine, right? So the nature of communication, the nature of relationship has immensely changed just in the last few years, complements of the ability to talk to each other. Now, what if I can actually run an AI to determine what I think I actually like versus what I really, really like? And if I can use that AI then to go find people who actually really, truly are in the neighborhood of what I want. This is going to be, as much as it's a fun joke, is a humongous impact in the next 50 years. Problem is this is more of what everybody expects AI to be right now. Hey, it's a cute kitty-ish, right? It's like, what the hell is it? I don't know. It's a robot, sort of, kind of, and it's going to kill us all, but it's so cute, and it probably purrs, but it purrs with a V8 motor. They don't really know what exactly they're dealing with, but this is what everybody's expectation is. And so where we are is we are at this point. My world will change. I don't know what it's going to look like. I'm scared. That is the most common thing I hear from people, from executives, from politicians, everybody all across the country. So much so, in fact, that we are talking about fundamentally changing the policy of the United States, and in fact, most of the world, to be able to change how income happens, how salaries work, right? Things like universal basic income is now becoming a real discussion, right or wrong. I'm not taking a political position here, but it is a real discussion now under the context of, will anybody be able to find a job? I'm going to tell you the answer is yes, you will. But we're going to walk through that. So as we think of history, history is the only indicator we really truly have towards the future, right? We have no idea what happens tomorrow. Maybe on April the 8th, Ryan, something really, really weird happens and the entire world changes. Now, I poke on Ryan a little bit because we work on very, very dark DoD things, right? We'll explore that a little bit in a minute too. But what could happen, we don't really know, but we know that the future is going to be different. And we know that really big things are coming. So let's think about some of the positive natures. Now, Darla is, this Darla, the human Darla, who is waving, is part of a mentorship program. I've had a mentorship program for about 20 years now. Darla is part of that program and had no idea that what she was volunteering for at the moment, but we helped to be able to make an AI avatar of her. This is her as a bot. The first thing you'll notice is the bot's hair and makeup are not nearly as good as Darla's. So I appreciate the human version. Excellent there. Beyond that, watch this.
I am Darla's AI avatar. Darla is an entrepreneur. She helps to build new platforms for agriculture technology that help to feed the world. Darla's work enables people to grow healthy foods in their homes. Technology helps to eliminate food insecurity by shortening the supply chain. As my friend Shawn Riley says, food security is national security. Safe, highly available food helps to make the world healthier and safer.
These last few seconds here, she doesn't speak on purpose. Watch. And that's where it stops. Does she look human? Could you be convinced she's a real person? Did you listen to what she said? Right? Darla was also not necessary to be there for the production of this video or the voice or the communication or the knowledge. It is a complete rendering of her as a representation of knowledge she knows in this space. What can we do with this? You're entrepreneurs. Throw me an idea. Yes, sir. Customer service representative. Teacher. Educator. Knowledge base. Anybody in here speak non-English languages? Have her do the whole thing in French. Yeah. Well, actually, what was really fun was having her do the whole thing in my voice instead of her voice. That was accidental, and it was really entertaining, and the video was humorous. There's back here. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. What if I had her say, I love pickles? Video goes out. Everybody goes, cool. She loves pickles, sends her pickles. She's allergic to pickles, and she dies. What just happened? These are the ramifications that we have to think about. These are really, really weird things that no one has ever had to think about. They add on to this. You all said you could believe it's a human being. You believed what you heard and saw. How long would you have to interact with something like that before you believe she's alive? And then when I ask you the question, is she alive? Is she? I'm calling her she. I'm applying, right? I'm applying an actual connection of humanity to zeros and ones. Does not exist. Darla exists. Darla bot does not, right? So this world is getting weirder and weirder and weirder and weirder, but we are going in very positive ways to enable people in all sorts of things. So one of the things that we are using this for in certain spaces in the world today, as I was introduced, I'm an ex-Mayo Clinic guy, right? Mayo Clinic history, XO, etc. I'm very aware of medical experiments that are being done with this type of bot to be able to help people who are quasi-dimensional to be able to understand their medications, to be able to talk through, hey, you need to take this on Monday, this on Tuesday, and to be able to change the language at an individual basis, not just from a English to Spanish to French, but to an aspect of this person grew up in a musician standpoint, and thus you use the language of music to be able to equate to them, to have a better connectivity to them so that when they have an experience, they go, oh, I understand this better. Very, very interesting aspect where you can have personalized, individualized education, knowledge transfer, because the bot can also do this in a matter of moments. So I'll show you this at the end, but what you saw here was done in how long? Half an hour to 45 minutes. And we were learning the tools. Yep. And then we put my voice on top by accident because we labeled it wrong and I had to have laugh for 10 minutes. That probably added, it'll be half that half an hour. But the reality is this can be done incredibly quickly. And I'll demonstrate that actually at the end of the conversation here. But AI is obviously, it's a great tool, but it's absolutely not a complete replacement for people yet. Right? It is absolutely a revolution though, especially for entrepreneurs. So those of you who are budding at entrepreneurs, so Travis, we talked a little earlier today. Did you know I was going to put you on the hot seat? The answer was definitely. You definitely know. All right. So you're going to start a new company. What is better for you, having $1 million in production with 5 workers or $1 million in production with 5,000 workers? I want to be able to produce with 5. Why? Because with 5, it's probably only going to cost me, X amount of dollars. Maybe it cost me $250,000. With 5,000, I am losing money a lot, right? What does this do? What does this technology do? It enables me constantly. The question came up earlier today about technology enablement. If you can name me any company anywhere that is not a technology company, I am going to tell you that company is about to be disrupted by one that is a technology company, right? You're a technology company or you're about to be disrupted by one that is. And today, the technology that has the highest enablement, the highest value, the highest throughput, and the greatest cost savings for your operations is AI. So today, we are seeing organization after organization after organization go, cool, what is this AI thing? We don't know how to use it. We don't know what to do with it. We know it's really cool, but we don't know how. That how is moving very, very, very fast. So I get introduced all the time. I was really happy. Where did Chad go? Oh, there he is. All right. Lost you in the shade. All right. So when Chad asked me, he says, how should I introduce you? I said, under no circumstances, make me an expert. Do not say I'm an expert. Because the reality is with artificial intelligence today, I get introduced as an expert all the time. I will tell you, if I were to claim expert, I'd claim it for about 15 minutes before somebody else has done something new that I don't know yet, right? This field is moving at an unbelievable pace. 2.5 years ago, how many of you heard of ChatGPT? Nobody really 2.5 years ago, right? Now, is there anybody in here? Raise your hand if you have a ChatGPT account or have license. Okay. If your hand didn't go up, you probably are still sleeping from lunch, right? Everybody, right, is the fastest growing app in the history of the internet. Immense throughput, and everybody uses it now, and it drives me crap nuts because I get emails and it's in bullet point format, and you're like, oh, can't you at least edit it, right? You're getting all this stuff that comes across this way, but the tool's evolving. And the reality is when you get into GPT-4 and you get into GPT-4.5, which most of you can't get your hands on yet, but when you get to that, the capacity for the tool to go to that structured indexing that was there before, that everybody can recognize as ChatGPT, now is becoming integrated knowledge. And it's going, oh, wait, Tolo, you write like this. I'm going to produce like this, right? And I can literally go, hey, this looks just like your work. And I can take 30 of the things that I've built, I can plug it into the system, and what it spits out again smells, reads, and looks like what I write. So that's changing, that's evolving. That's in under a year, guys. We went from something that was super recognizable that everybody thought was super cool to now it's individualized in under a year. It's an immense opportunity. So entrepreneurs are going to leverage this in ways that we have not seen for about 120 years. I'll talk about the 120 years. This positive revolution gives you the capability to think about problems in all new ways. You two were just up here on stage. The first thing you said, find the problem, identify the problem. And I wanted to cheer, but I figured it would just break the room. I'm like, thank you for please, thank you, right? So we, Arnie and I own a venture studio. And the venture studio's whole concept is to be able to take entrepreneurs and help you build companies around the world. And we help to build organizations all over the world and help you take that crazy idea and turn it into a product, and a product into a team, and a team into revenue, and et cetera, as we go. And the number one thing is always, what problem you're trying to solve? And I go, well, I don't know. I just like making cool stuff. Like, oh, cool. I like making cool stuff too. That's not a product. You can't sell that, right? You need to be able to figure out what you're going to solve, and then we figure out how we're going to solve it. And when we take that, then we can implement it, and we can actually do things with it. But now, today, the amazing stuff with AI is you can tell it your problem. I have this problem. I have no idea how to solve it. And you know what it does? It goes, based on everything else in the world, this, right? Now, one of the big things that I have, one challenges that I have right now, how many of you have gone to ChatGPT, put your question in, got your result back, copied that, pasted it where you were going to go, and hit send? Come on, somebody's done it. Yes. This is exactly part of the problem. And it's not just, I pick on ChatGPT because it's the one everybody knows, but Night Dragon, we were just, Ryan was just showing me some of the cafe protocols, some of these things. There's just tool after tool after tool. Go out to futuretools.io, out to that website, and you'll find about 1,500 different applications today that are all very solid AI tools doing all kinds of very solid different things. And the problem that we have consistently right now is that people are simply adopting the outcome without research. And this is happening all over the place, right? How many of you heard about the lawyer who did his research, got a report, put it together, put it in front of a judge, and judge looked at this and says, not real, right? Judge knew this well enough to go, nope, this isn't it. Well, he pulled it all at ChatGPT, didn't bother to research it, didn't bother to cross-reference it, and the judge censured him for it, right? This ended up in the news all over the place. AI has two big core problems. One is hallucinating, right? I share that problem on occasion. Most of the time because I forget to eat or forget to sleep for like 3 days or something. Not the things that all you college kids were thinking. All right. So it hallucinates, it forgets, right, where things are, because structurally there's a lot of very strange things that happen in AI. The other big problem that comes with AI is the actual data itself, the input data, right? And as we think about this input data, there's this massive problem today where we do not agree on fact, right? We do not agree on truth. And these are two different words. And now, since this is a college, someone will probably have a teacher or professor that will correct me. But I would define fact as an incontrovertible thing. And I would define truth as the collection of the whole's belief of an incontrovertible thing. And we today have this all over the place, and we mix the two and we use these two interchangeably. And this is why 2 years ago, ChatGPT was 98% certain that the world was a sphere, and today it's only 56% certain that the world is a sphere. That means it's 44% belief that the world is flat. Are there any flat earthers in here? None? What? Thankfully, that's just a credit to the college. That's all I can say, right? There are no flat earthers here. This is way better than Iowa State. There were at least 3 of them in the room. It was really weird. Part of the problem is the input data is causing us to be able to think differently about the output than we probably should be. Now, there's a lot of very controlled places. So ChemPub or PubChem, depending on what country you're from. ChemPub allows you to be able to go out and put in chemical analysis of different products and be able to determine whether or not you can get a new solution out of this. They're testing things like glass, right? So they're creating what we used to call Gorilla Glass, which is the glass on your phone, right? Super, super, super thin. But for how thin it is, it's actually very, very hard, right? Very, very durable. So they're testing new models, add tin and zinc, do it at different levels. This is amazing stuff. This is saving billions of dollars in research that had to be done in a lab before, where you had to do chemical analysis, you had to run through it. It took time and time and time of error and error. And now we can literally go to the AI and go, and we get really good results because it's only controlled studies that get to go into the data. Go to this opposing tool that allows any moron like myself, who's not a chemist, to go, oh, duh, I like sodium and I pour it on my snail and look what happens, you know? And then take that and put it into the system, and all of a sudden you get a result that is really, really wacky, right? You do not get what you expect to have. So these are the issues that we're working with. And as we go forward, this will continue to evolve in a positive way. Data will get better. Truth and fact will get narrower. We will continue to move. Now, people still look at me and they go, all right, so fine, the systems are evolving, right? We've gone from ChatGPT 3 to 3.5 to 4 to 4.5 in that process. And it is getting way, way better. We're getting better results. We're getting better data. We're getting better outcomes, et cetera, et cetera. But everybody's going to lose their job, right? That's pretty much what always happens, especially if it's legislators. I'm not picking on North Dakota legislators as much this time. It's lots and lots and lots of states legislators that have this conversation. I want to give you a picture. I want to put a picture in your head. So let's go back to 1908. Anybody around back then? Garmin? All right, close. All right. Nobody was around back in 1908. So in 1908, if you go to California, if you go to San Francisco, at the time there was a paper called the Sun Gazette. The Sun Gazette had a title on it on August the 12th that if you were to take that big headline and change it to today's clickbait headline, would be something like 94% of all jobs will be gone by 2020. Interesting part, they were right. 94% of all the jobs that existed in 1908 will be gone. Past tense, would have been gone, are gone. Is 94% of the population unemployed today? No. Interesting. Okay, so what happened? That happened. The thing they were actually talking about wasn't AI, it wasn't computers. They were talking about bulldozers. And they were very, very excited because the steam bulldozer that came out in roughly 1890 had evolved to this point in 1908 to make it so that 1,000 men with shovels, and yes, they were all men at that time, but 1,000 men with shovels were being replaced by a team of 3 people on the bulldozer, 1 to drive it, 2 to fix it. And they were very, very excited about this in this article. I found this immensely entertaining to read because it's pretty much the exact same thing I could pick off of any website today about artificial intelligence. And it's nobody will have a job. We're going to have to find ways to do with these people. We're going to have to chemically castrate everyone, all these men. That's actually in the article. That's also entertaining. But this aspect of we will have to make sure that people cannot breed because if they do, they're going to have children and those children won't have jobs either. And there was no concept, right, of we were replacing this with machine and that people would adapt. There's no aspect of that, right? So what are we doing today? We're replacing this with machine. So this picture. Oh, come on. Anybody know where I'm going to go with this picture? It's an AI story and it's a laughing, goofy looking horse. All right, I'm going to give you a job in roughly 1920. Listen to me closely now. Pregnant horse urine collector. Guys catch that? Pregnant horse urine collector. This was a substantial workforce in the 1920s and the early 1930s because people went out with buckets to go to the horses that were pregnant and went, yay, I like to collect the pee, please. Anybody want that job? All right, what happened to that job? We found a chemical support model to instead create epinephrine, which was what was in the urine that they were doing. They were taking the urine to be able to make chemicals for medications. They found a different chemical methodology to be able to do that through a technology. This is the same thing that happens with rubber, right? This is the same thing that happens over and over, why plasticines exist today, et cetera. We have found solutions from one technology to the next technology to make it easier to get, to easier to maintain, to be easier to create. How many people that had the pregnant horse urine collector job are very, very sad that the job went away? Well, I don't know. I can't imagine it was a lot. But that job completely disappeared. And as far as I know, there is no such thing at all in America or anywhere else where that job still exists. So then people are like, oh, but it's still coming and it's going to be different and it's going to be so different and everybody can't possibly adapt and blah, 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 blah. I was at a conference in the Twin Cities in October. It's one of the very few times when I'm on stage and I get a feedback from somebody and my eyes just turn red and I'm just like, just ready to come out in the crowd. I have been told previously about, oh, you see, those kind of people can't learn. And you can apply whatever label you want to that, but the second I hear that, my ears go back, my eyes turn red. I go, oh, wolf. I believe that is absolutely, completely wrong about the nature of humanity. We constantly, continuously, absolutely learn. We adapt, we change, we create. And right now, we have that capacity as we go, and we will continue to have that capacity. And as people then look at me and go, oh, but AI is coming and it's coming and it's coming, it's going to kill us all and it's going to destroy us all. The other part that people need to realize, it's already here. It's been here for actually quite a while. right? We've done kind of limited AI stuff all the way back into the 1930s. Nobody would have thought to call it that then. We wouldn't treat it that way today, right? Mark mentioned the Turing test. You guys are mostly know, right? Alan Turing, all kinds of fun stuff. The guy took a pipe organ and turned it into a machine to break down the German codes. Really cool kind of stuff. I totally nerd out on that stuff. A lot of fun. But relatively, artificial intelligence in the time in comparison, right? And now it's been evolving and evolving and evolving. How many of you have one of these? Anybody don't have one of these? Does anybody have 3 of them on them? Yeah. All right. So this has been running on AI for 14 years. Limited AI is not always useful. Everybody knows the funny running joke. Hey, Siri, tell me where I can find Canada. Oh, thank you, Shawn. I love the Egyptian plateaus. Man, it didn't always work horribly well, but that is what it is. It's artificial intelligence. And this is getting better and better and better until Gemini. Then it sucks. But I'll just leave that alone. So artificial intelligence is already everywhere. So where already are we going, right? Right now, anybody driving one of these around on, is MSU, do you guys have any of these? Is Kubota AI tractors? There's also John Deere. There's also New Holland. There's also et cetera, right? These are really, really, really cool things that already have sensors on them, that already have grids on them, that are already planting crops, that are already pulling crops from the ground. Anybody been in a John Deere 770S combine? Nobody? I'm sad about that. All right. It is a humongous machine. It's really fun. You get on a ladder, you go up to the 2nd story of the thing, you go inside, and it's like a living room. It's humongous, right? But they have this big bench, and literally the big bench is about probably a table and a half, not quite a table and a half wide, right? You could sit 4 people on there, have popcorn. It's wonderful. But you get in here, and the captain of this thing goes over to the steering wheel, and they drive up to the row. And once they get to the row, then on this side of them is a little stick, looks like a flight control stick. And at the bottom is the yellow button. And he pushes the yellow button, and then he hits the foot pedal, pushes the steering wheel away, and he looks at me and goes, hey, what do you want to talk about? And the combine drives itself around. This was in 2018, right? The reality is that this technology is already here. It's already moving. It's already growing. It's already massive. All right, look at this map. Tell me how many of these people are digital, and point out the ones that are human. One person in here knows the answer. She is not allowed to cheat. Give me the human person in there. Or people. Anybody? Anybody? Can't tell. All right. They're all digital. Yeah. These are all digital constructs. Does any of them look like a digital construct? Not a one. All right. So this is the amazing and the horrible all at the same time. So Mark previously talked about how China is using AI. Because of some of the things I do in my other side of my job, I don't get to pick on China as much as I'd like to. So what instead I will say is there's this really annoying big country over in Asia that has an application. And that application right now is being used to do facial recognition of people in the streets of Hong Kong to look at you as you walk by to determine whether or not you're a potential threat to the state, right? They are watching you as you go by, and maybe you look angry today, maybe you look grouchy today, maybe you got a little bit of heat on your body, whatever it is, but the system watches you and determines how likely you are to be a problem to the government. I don't like that. That identical system is used in the United States in prisons today to be able to do the exact same thing with prisoners who are walking around the prison system, and it looks at them to determine how likely they are to riot, how likely they are to shank each other. And it is actually in the prisons that it's been tested in, reduced the amount of damage between people and reduced the amount of death and reduced the amount of injuries to both inmates and guards. This is a very positive thing. But it's identical technology. In this particular case with these images here on this board, so these are all digital images here that were put together for the purposes of a medical company that is working on DM&E. And if you're not familiar with that, DM&E has all these different aspects of physical interaction with a person. So think of it as someone's lost a limb, we're going to add a new limb to them. Somebody needs a heart implant, these type of things. They put this stuff together, they put a map together of actually 1 million people. And this 1 million people map was combined and then given an image rendering for the purposes of determining better suitability of the medical instrumentation with humans. Look at this. Anything seem odd? What you see there? That's supposed to be a representation of all humanity. Where's the blondes? Where's the redheads? Right? Right? Where's a lot of different kinds of people that everybody would see, right? I look around this room and I see people who are different in a lot of ways than what you would see on this wall. So what happened is the developer had a zero oops, right? Literally did a zero oops and put the decimal in the wrong place. And when they put together the data and they assembled the data and they sent it up to their upper level management, and then it went through another level management, another level management, before somebody finally looked at the map and went, huh, that doesn't really look like everybody. And they were actually going to put together a multi-million-dollar project on completely wrong data. Instead of the 1 million people, he ended up with closer to 1,000 in his group. And that group was all from 2 villages that were in a localized area in Asia. And this is the map he ended up with. Accidental, but the same kind of problem. So as you keep on going, though, AI is getting better and better and smarter. How many of you use Night Cafe? Anybody? Nobody uses Night Cafe? Really, really cool stuff that you can do with this, right? I was on this 7 tsunamis roll. Arnie knows what I'm talking about. On this whole aspect of the tsunamis of my life and needing artwork to represent all the weirdness in my universe. And so you go out to Night Cafe and put in here, represent the 7 tsunamis, and it gives you this amazing imagery back, right? This aspect of imagery is just sample, right, of all the really, really cool things that you can do out there right now in these type of tools. You can put in characteristics of photography, characteristics of imagery, and go out there. Now, the first thing I hear is oh, are all the photographers going out of business? Anybody in here a photographer, professional or otherwise? Okay, former professional? I just learned something about Ryan. I love it. I didn't know that. Anybody else? All right, so NFTs. Anybody familiar with NFTs? Non-fungible tokens, okay? NFTs have been applied to lots and lots of artwork over the last 4 years. What has happened to the photography and artist markets since 2021 with the advent of this technology? Everybody sat back. First of all, if you went to 2020, we were told endlessly all over again, the last possible thing that can be done with AI is artwork, because it can't possibly be creative. And within a year's time, this was the biggest thing that was being done with AI by the general population. And everybody then said, oh, all the photography studios in America and all the art studios in America are all going to die. And now 3 years later, the art market and the photography market and the NFT markets are now at 247% what they were 3 years ago. We have commoditized the capability to allow people like me who have no talent whatsoever in any of these things to be able to apply my creativity to be able to have artwork. I then can commoditize that, which meant instead of individuals with specialized skills, I can now take a specialty and I can make it a commodity, which means I make it available and I've democratized it. And guess what? I have massively increased the market space. From an entrepreneurial standpoint, who's happy? I see. I got to see, guys, just look at the head. Yep. We're doing the right thing. We're going the right way. We're making more money. We're getting more done. We're having more people involved in the system. You're creating a larger addressable market, and you're doing it at an easier price point. Just one industry, one segment. And this is happening everywhere now. Cybersecurity. So as Mark said, I have a substantial background in cybersecurity. I've been hacking things for a very, very long time. The first time I got recognized doing this was in 10th grade. I pulled a computer in front of a room like this. I turned around and said, who has a crappy grade in this speech class? One guy says, oh, I do. And I'm like, what do you got? And he goes, look at a D in here. And I go, what do you deserve? I deserve a B plus at least. And I turn around and in 2 minutes and 11 seconds, I hacked the school's network. I changed his grades. I turn around and go, ta-da. The room cheers except for the teacher. So yeah. The good part though is I did not go to jail. It ended up well for me. And since then I've been part of the cybersecurity community. The reality is that right now in this United States, in North Dakota specifically, there are 4.5 billion attacks per year against the North Dakota defense perimeter. 99 points, I got to do this on my hands, right? 99.99999 of those are defended by AI. So out of 4.5 billion attacks, because the number is so bloody huge, that still leaves 51,000 attacks that have to be managed by person, by human being on an annualized basis. If we took away the AI, we would hire every single human being in the entire state and have to annex half of Canada to be able to actually meet our cybersecurity needs. That tool is immense, immensely proportionate to what's necessary. So I'm going to take this then towards the future. So as I'm talking a little too much, we think about all the opportunities we have going forward as entrepreneurs. How many of you want to be leading your own companies? Okay, some hands. How many of you are thinking, someday I want to lead my own companies? Okay, awesome. How many of you want somebody else to lead the company, but you want to get the stock? Should have been more hands for that. All right, that's a smart, all right. Thank you for the, in other words, second in command, right? That's number one right there. So yeah. Another Star Trek thing, I can't not have Star Wars or Star Trek things in something. Anyway, the opportunity out here is immense. There's a huge amount of components that are changing and evolving and moving as we go. And we are running against the clock. And I have been asked many, many, many times, how do we put the AI genie back in the bottle? You don't. It's gone. It will not stop now. If every single legislature in every single district across the entire country says, ban it, you're screwed. Doesn't matter. This is prohibition all over again, guys. Everybody gets a beer, everybody gets AI, right? It's just not going to stop. So we have to think of this in a different way. When we think about what we're doing right now, today, 55% of all people are bored at their job every day. How productive are bored people? None, right? Crap production. That means 55% of the entire salary of the entire country is wasted, right? 55% of the production capability of the entire country is undervalued and lost. Any of you students recognize yourself? You're smirking up here, guys. What are we going to do about it? Where are we going to move? How are we going to get done? So what do we have to do? What we have to consider is that AI gives us the capacity to reduce and eliminate commodity, repeating, predictable, mundane, boring work. What is the purpose of a computer to begin with? It is get rid of commodity, repeating, predictable, mundane, and boring work. The stuff that nobody wants to do. How many of you wanted to grow up to be data entry people? Nobody in the entire bloody world. How many of you want to grow up to answer emails? Nobody. I end up doing this for, I don't know. What do we get? What do we get on a daily basis? 150, 200 emails? I have no idea. Yeah. Am I behind on my emails every single day? Yes. What I tell you, don't send me an email, send me a signal. Then what happens? Then I get 750 signals a day, right? So all of this stuff, right, is commodity component that does not add value to our jobs, does not add value to us, and we don't fill our cup. We instead drain. And thus we become bored, thus become less productive. Then as human beings, how many of you have parents that don't enjoy their jobs? There you go. People admit it, right? Like, hey, this sucks. Why don't they enjoy it? Because it's not helping them personally engage in what they want to engage in. This is where the computers come in. Commodity, repeating, predictable, mundane, boring work. We can kill it. So we enable innovation. If you don't have to do crap work, if I don't have to do email and I don't have to respond and I don't have to do paperwork, putting in my mileage or my expense tracking or my accounts payable or all these kind of things that are annoying and boring, what am I going to do instead? I'm going to create. I'm going to create. I'm going to innovate. I get excited. I look for problems and then I look for solutions, because I want to solve things, right? And the reality is this happens over and over, and there are studies all over the planet, not just here at Minot State, but all over the planet that show this over and over and over again. Get rid of the repeating, predictable, mundane, boring crap and let people think. And what do you know? They do. This is my favorite example. I'm a big Mars guy. For those of you that know me a little bit, right, I've got a whole bunch of TED Talks that talk about Mars, I talk about cyber, I talk about AI, I talk about whatever the hell anybody let me get on stage and talk about. But go watch a couple of the TED Talks. This is all about how we can comprehensively fix the problems in our world by getting rid of boring crap. Right? Stop worrying about boring, mundane things that don't matter and do high value work. Become an entrepreneur, fill your cup, create. We get to go to Mars. And whoever goes first gets to bring me along. We solve problems. We create for the world. We help people eat, right? We help people end disease. We create new substances, we create new chemicals, we create new ways of thinking. All of this comes from this aspect of setting aside commodity, repeating, predictable, mundane, and boring work. Ultimately, it leads to the capacity of immensely exposing yourself, changing who we are as a human species. Now, this is where I get a little dreamer, right? But if you're in that life contract concept and you're trying to figure out where you are and where you're going to be and where your soul is going to be and how are you going to evolve as people, you're not going to do that doing emails every day. You're not going to do that being data entry every day. You're going to do that freeing yourself from that type of stuff and allowing yourself to think and conceive and become. So I like to add the little dreaming aspect at the end of this. Some people think it's really, really annoying, but I want to be able to believe that the technologies that we are enabling are going to enable us as people. And that is where artificial intelligence is already doing this. So from here, I want to jump over to a Q&A. And to do that quickly, I'm going to do this a little differently. I'm going to show you guys something to demonstrate a little more AI. All right. So this morning we asked for some questions to be added. Oops. I did take the questions in paper form, which I know is strange. I took the questions in paper form, and we took the digital Darla, overlaid that quickly, right? So the face is there, the voice is there. I went to ChatGPT. I can take all your questions, plop it in, grab the answers. I didn't bother to read the answers. I didn't touch them. I did nothing with it. And then from there, we dump this into our little image editing tool. I want to do this live, but unfortunately, tools here are all available. The fastest I can do it is in 7 minutes. 2 years from now, that means 3.5 minutes. 2 years later, that means 1.5 minutes. 2 years after that, it'll be real time. That's the crazy stuff that is coming, right? But I'm going to give you an example here. So the question that came up, what is the benefits of AI to companies? And let's see what our bots.
Integrating AI technologies into a company's business model offers several key benefits: improved efficiency and productivity. AI automates repetitive tasks, streamlines processes, and reduces manual workloads, leading to increased efficiency and productivity across various departments. Enhanced decision-making. AI-driven analytics provide valuable insights from vast amounts of data, enabling data-driven decision-making. This leads to better informed strategic and operational decisions, improving overall business performance. Personalized customer experiences. AI enables personalized interactions with customers through recommendation engines, chatbots, and predictive analytics. This enhances customer satisfaction, loyalty, and retention by delivering tailored products and services. Cost reduction. By automating tasks and optimizing resource allocation, AI helps reduce operational costs and improve cost efficiency. This includes savings in labor, energy consumption, and resource utilization. Innovative product development. AI enables the development of innovative products and services by uncovering new insights, identifying market trends, and predicting customer preferences. This fosters competitiveness and drives business growth. Risk mitigation and compliance. AI-powered risk assessment and compliance tools help identify potential risks, fraud, and regulatory violations in real time. This minimizes exposure to financial losses, legal liabilities, and reputational damage, scalability, and adaptability. AI technologies can scale with the business, adapting to changing needs and requirements. Whether it's handling increased customer inquiries or analyzing larger data sets, AI systems can grow alongside the company. Improved operational resilience. AI helps optimize resource allocation, predict maintenance needs, and identify vulnerabilities, enhancing operational resilience. This ensures smoother operations, minimizes downtime, and mitigates disruptions.
Might not be the person I want to sit by the fireplace and have a conversation with, but I sure can learn from that little bot, right? So I'll do one more.
Integrating AI technologies into a company's business model offers several key benefits: improved efficiency and productivity. AI automates repetitive tasks, streamlines processes, and reduces manual workloads, leading to increased efficiency and productivity across various departments. Enhanced decision-making. AI-driven analytics provide valuable insights from vast amounts of data, enabling data-driven decision-making. This leads to better informed strategic and operational decisions, improving overall business performance. Personalized customer experiences. AI enables personalized interactions with customers through recommendation engines, chatbots, and predictive analytics. This enhances customer satisfaction, loyalty, and retention by delivering tailored products and services. Cost reduction. By automating tasks and optimizing resource allocation, AI helps reduce operational costs and improve cost efficiency. This includes savings in labor, energy consumption, and resource utilization. Innovative product development. AI enables the development of innovative products and services by uncovering new insights, identifying market trends, and predicting customer preferences. This fosters competitiveness and drives business growth. Risk mitigation and compliance. AI-powered risk assessment and compliance tools help identify potential risks, fraud, and regulatory violations in real time. This minimizes exposure to financial losses, legal liabilities, and reputational damage, scalability, and adaptability. AI technologies can scale with the business, adapting to changing needs and requirements. Whether it's handling increased customer inquiries or analyzing larger data sets, AI systems can grow alongside the company. Improved operational resilience.
I'm going to stop it there. You get the idea. From this, 7 minutes later, right? That's 7 minutes later. Looks like a regular person, talks like a regular person, a little bit fast, right? A little bit of nuance, a little bit of twist. If I were to put 15 minutes worth of effort into the language model, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between that model and how I speak, right? And we've done that because we did that with a handful of videos already, where you couldn't tell the difference between the way I'm talking right now versus the way it talks from here to there in 7 minutes. Anybody entrepreneur-wise think you could come up with a use for that? There you go.
The drone capacity. Oh, okay. Machine augmentation now.
You
But
are
I
the
have to
board.
ask you a hard question, Sean. I have to ask you a hard question.
You
So,
asked every hard question.
Here we
you
go.
can. I want to hear it.
Here we go. I had a family member who had cognitive difficulties and was at the nursing home in New Salem. And the nurses sometimes would sit in her room, you know, for quite a while and just listen to her and just give her human empathy. Not very cost effective. I could definitely see a AI bot impersonating a human. What about the idea that it's fake empathy and it's not real? Any thoughts on that for the nursing healthcare profession, which we have severe shortages in? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So, as I said, I'm an ex-healthcare guy, so I have a bit of a cheat on this, right? Is it fake empathy to have a dog? Is it fake empathy to have a pet? Is it fake empathy to have a teddy bear? So when you go to the medical institution realizes sometimes that they give placebos, and placebos provide no clinical impact or effect or benefit. But that placebo mentally can provide a ton of benefit. Is that a placebo? Possibly. Might be. The real aspect, right, is does the tool set enable the patient? And whether it's clinically viable or not, whether it clinically makes an impact to the individual or not, doesn't have a lot of relevance to the point of the component of is the individual feeling better in the moment? So this is one of those things that is going to come up. One of the things that is not in the United States Constitution is what does it mean to be a human being? Being a human being does not compute in any of our law. None of our law defines a soul, so to speak. Do we need to? Does it exist? I don't know. And does that have it? That's going to be the question that's coming. This is going to be a topic that I guarantee you within the next 10 years we will be having within our legislators is that alive? And if so, what rights does it have? This is going to be, again, what I said when I started. Human race is going to evolve more in the next 50 years than it has in the last 5,000. Because we are going to have to comprehensively rethink what it is to be us. Who are we? What are we? What excites us? What frustrates us? All of those questions. What was my Baywatch slide, right? As long as it's hot, it's fine. Right? I mean, that's the unfortunate reality right now, right? Is we have set this very weird expectation of ourselves today, right now, where somehow in the last 10 years, every relationship is supposed to be a perfect relationship all the time and never have variation and never ever challenge you. And the reality is before that, we never had that expectation. We always expected that love was hard, relationships were hard. People say this throughout the last 2,000 years of writing. But now somehow in the last 10 years, we're like, nope, it should be automatic, it should be easy, and it should be everything I want all the time when I want, even though I don't know what the hell I wanted, what I want today or tomorrow and the next day. But how are you going to solve it? Yeah. All right. And one more question here. If we have time, you guys tell me the time. I'm sucking at leaving looking.
I'm going to jump back to the creation, the art
Mhm.
that you showed. So yes, an individual can use IA to create, create,
Mhm.
but can you say it really is that person's creation I mean, it's computer generated, but is it really, I don't know, I guess what I'm wondering is, how can one claim that it is truly their creation?
Well, let me ask you, are you saying that from the metaphysical standpoint, or do you mean that from the legal standpoint? Sorry. Okay, so from a metaphysical standpoint, if I believe, then it is. Right? There's nothing more to it than that. If I believe, then it is. You may not like it or not believe. So what? From that perspective, right? This is the amazing weirdness of the human mind, where if I believe something to be true, it is true. If I believe it to be fact, that doesn't mean a damn thing, right? Fact is incontrovertible, but truth is my own. So from the perspective of art, if I draw a really, really crappy picture on my piece of paper and I look at it and I go, this is art, it's art. And that is exactly what we're about to deal with. Now, the aspect that gets extended from that is, from a legal perspective, who owns it? Well, that depends. That's a technology problem. That's a platform problem. If I draw on somebody else's piece of paper, who owns the artwork? In this case, I'm drawing on a digital platform. Maybe it's mine, maybe it's theirs. That's part of what you have to figure out at a platform to platform level.
One more.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Shawn. I'm Kyle Biddle. I'm one of the instructors here at Minot State.
Kyle?
So one of my favorite topics of research or of study even is information privacy and data privacy. And as we watch the digital Darla here, it makes me think a lot about, and I guess I'm asking you this, what your opinion is. Do you foresee in the future that people's identities will become almost like an intellectual property, in the sense, like I think of even the like the actors strike that just happened last year. I mean, part of why they were striking is because their likenesses were being used in movies, or the writers, their intellectual works were being used, by AI. Is there going to be a time when I need to trademark Kyle Biddle, as a person, so no
Yeah.
one can just use my
Yeah.
likeness?
Yeah. So I would love to have a 2-hour conversation with this, because this gets into some really, really, really fun places. Back on September the 26th of last year, I did a presentation for the FBI in regards to connection of data to different systems and artificial intelligence. And the very first question right out the gates was, I have a computer bot that made another bot, and that bot committed a felony. Who the hell do I prosecute? Okay. This agent was very excited about this, and I ended up having a conversation with her later about the why, and I understood why she was excited about this particular issue. These are all the same kind of things. One of the things that is essential at all law in the United States, that goes back actually way, 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 way before the United States, is the aspect of property, right? What is property law, right? And identity is an aspect of property. You should own that. Right. So there shouldn't have to be a comprehensively separate component of this, from the aspect of ownership of an AI bot to the component of which one spins off something else. Where does the property reside? And when you get into property law, that's ancient law. It's 800-year-old law across the western side of the world, and the eastern side of the world, it's 2,200 years old. We're actually pretty good at that law. We somehow think that this doesn't apply. But it does. This absolutely does. And the problem is lots of special interests really, really don't want that to apply. Because if it does, then all of a sudden I can't mine that data. I have to pay you for that data. You have rights over it, and I have to get your rights. And that sucks for me, because I want to take all that stuff and sell it to somebody else for free. So that's the problem that we end up with right now, is that if you essentially look at this from a property law standpoint, you already own your identity. And from that component, there should not need to be a wrapper to it. But this is going to be a big legal issue for the next 25 years, because it's going to constantly come up, because, again, those special interests want that material for free, and they sure as hell don't want your identity ever to be wrapped in. Ask Meta. Okay, so my last question, time-wise, or?
One more. We're being nice.
Oh,
So thank you for your talk. I guess my question is, as a faculty member here at Minot State, my question is, how do you think Minot State should respond to artificial intelligence?
how should Minot State respond to artificial intelligence? What should you do? What should you think about doing? I think you should have every single freshman in the entire school first take an entrepreneurial class from Arnie Streeb. Start with that, right? And what you're learning is the LX4. And you're going to look at me and go, what the hell's that got to do with AI? The real reason that I say that is because the gentleman sitting to his right is writing the ethics of artificial intelligence and works in the ethics of artificial intelligence and the aspect of how is this tool going to be used. Because the reality is that in a university system right now, if you put together a program in a pilot in a class and you put together the courseware and you figure out how many credits it's going to be and where's it going to fit in the program and how's it going to come out as MSI and hey, can we tie it to apprenticeship? Maybe that takes 2 years. At the end of those 2 years, you apply it and you put it in place. And then somebody goes in the program and, hey, let's make it a bachelor's class. And they come out 6 years later. 6 years in AI time might as well be the Stone Age. Why teach the tool? Don't teach the tool. There's no point in teaching ChatGPT 3.5 today, or 4.0, or 4.5, or 5, or 6, or 7. Because by the time you get done building the damn courseware, it's already obsolete. So instead, teach the leadership principles and the ethics of managing the technology and let the technology be whatever it is when it arrives. That's how you can actually teach your students. That's how your students can go from tech to tech to tech and have leadership principles, understanding how they should manage it, and an ethics component, understanding how they should use it. Cool. All right. Thank you all.
We'll take just a moment to set up for the panel. Thank you.
Test 1, 2. Can you hear me? And the microphones can be on too. Is the microphone on? Try it, Darla. Is it on?
Is it? Yeah, yeah. It's
Okay.
on. Yes, so. All right. Take a drink of water.
With the screen on.
Okay, good afternoon. We're going to get to the panel discussion here this afternoon. Before doing that, I want to kind of thank, like Randy did, thank all those that are responsible for putting this together, all the people that do this stuff in the background. We got Darren from ITC up there. We've had Leon up here assisting. We've had Rick taking pictures. We've had Cole and Mike have been instrumental in putting this together. Dorman has helped pull together a lot of this as well. So a lot of people behind the scenes putting this together and helping this to make this a successful event. So thank you very much for those that have been able to do that. And then obviously, thank you to Clint and Connie for your support as always, and for your attendance and participation today. Greatly appreciated. That being said, I'm going to let Arnie, I believe, is it Arnie going to be doing it?
Yes.
Okay, so Arnie's going to take over and handle it from here. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Chad. Before we begin, I find some of the best time for learning is when I walk my dog Rosie in the morning and then in the evening. And when we're talking about AI, there's some great podcasts out there, and some that we would recommend would be there's the AI Breakdown if you're looking to learn more about AI. There's Last Week in AI, and then there's Practical AI, and then there's the AI podcast, and we'll get that information to you. It's the AI every day is normally about, I walk my dog for 15 minutes. It takes about 15 minutes, but then they also go in and they have a little longer information when they're talking about, was it Sora? Is that one of the apps and so forth? And so I've learned a lot about AI over probably the last year. Shawn's a guru. These other folks up here are gurus. The one thing I did forget is Cole, I forgot to thank you for all of your help, and I apologize for not recognizing you earlier. You've been really great and kind of kept us on track, and same thing with Mike. Mike's kept us up to speed, and Chan, you've been a fantastic host. Before we begin, I want to do a little bit of trivia here. Okay, so you have 4 very distinguished guests. Okay, not counting me, it's these 4 over here. One of the guests has actually intentionally crashed satellites. So one of these folks up here has crashed satellites. One has been on TV and has been in the movies. One was an entrepreneur at 24. I love this one. One is known as Hugh Jackman. Looks kind of familiar down there, Dorman. But anyway, so we'll kind of go through this and I'll be able to tell you which ones are who and so forth. What I'd like to do is start off with Megan. Megan is phenomenal, and they're going to do like a brief introduction. I'm going to try to cut it off after a minute, but if they go too long, then I'll ask the group to participate and go like this. Can you do that with me? All right. Okay. Megan, you want to go first?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Megan Jovig, and I was born and raised in Williston. Do we have any Williston people here by chance, or who grew up there? No, but well, that's where I grew up, and I went to Williston State College for my first year of university. So I was part of the North Dakota system for a while, but I went on to finish my school at Belmont University, and yeah, I did a lot of different work through my 20s, but ultimately found myself founding a venture fund with my father about almost 10 years ago. And we, really just wanted to diversify into technology and invest in some early stage companies. And we're admittedly a little bit green at the time, and I could do a whole different session on that for people interested in that part of the industry. But basically through that ended up in the ops side of one of our portfolio companies, which is Scythe. And that's what I'm doing today. And then to answer the icebreaker teaser that he threw out there, I did, during my time in New York, work in television and worked on a few HBO series, mostly in kind of supporting kind of background stuff, nothing serious, but it was a really fun time. And yeah, I really enjoyed working in television, and it's just kind of fun to be able to explore other parts of yourself and not see yourself as kind of a linear person, but someone who can have multiple talents.
And Megan is very modest. She's a phenomenal board member. She's also a phenomenal venture capitalist. And so we talk about questions on how you secure funding for companies. She'll be able to provide us with some great insights. So thank you, Megan, for joining us too. Let's go, Dorman, you next, brother, from another mother.
I will not tell you how the Hugh Jackman moniker came about, so we'll just avoid that. So Dorman Bazell, I have a fancy title. Yeah, I don't know, a bunch of titles. All of that being said, so I essentially live my consulting career and what I do for BisBlox in the world of data, artificial intelligence, blockchain, and try to understand how to be innovative with that, not only for myself, but for our customers. And just thoroughly enjoy coming to conferences like this and hearing questions, because I walk away with a lot of learning, hear a lot of things that and a lot of different perspectives that I might not have otherwise paid attention to. So I appreciate everyone's time. I appreciate all your questions.
Yeah, Dorman's a great person. He's also one that is like the voice of reason. You know, Shawn is kind of out there. And then when I need like reinforcement to kind of bring Shawn back from Mars and get him from Mars to the moon and the moon to back on the planet, it's Dorman normally kind of helps me do that. That's kind of Shawn, the visionary type person. And if you're familiar with Traction, there's a book out there by Wickham. I'm more the integrator. He'll come up with 15 great ideas in his mind. One's really a great idea. We kind of have to sift through the other 14 to find that one. But Dorman helps me kind of keep him on track. Darla or Ryan?
Dealer's choice.
Ryan, let's go.
All right. Hey, everybody. This has been super awesome. Ryan Cloutier. I am the CISO and Chief Visionary of Synaptech Services. So that's the titles. Built my first PC when I was 8, wrote my first software program when I was 9, compromised my first system at 9.5. I've done every job in IT you could imagine and all the ones outside of IT. I possess a unique specialty. I speak nerd and human. So I act as a translator, and as Shawn pointed out, ethics. That's my big passion area right now, finding creative ways to do creative things. As my wife would describe, I'm the kindest, sweetest, nicest, baddest bad man to walk the planet. So I am a professional good bad guy. So one of the other things I do is I am a hacker by trade. I may or may not have allegedly done something with a satellite. I help the good guys figure out what the bad guy is going to do next and come up with creative ways to stop it. And obviously AI is a huge, huge part of an area I'm exploring, both for the benefit of society, as well as, you know, to protect us. Quick shameless plug for my wife. She is in the women's healthcare and feminine health industry, and we're actually using AI to accelerate women's healthcare forward probably about 150 years from where it is today. So lots of great benefits to it, but most importantly, it's what are you doing with it and why? And so if anybody, as you guys get into this, have those questions, seek us out. I love to talk about that stuff. There's a way to make money the right way, the right time, for the right reason.
Thank you, Ryan. A little known fact about Ryan. I think, you know, was it yesterday or the day before we had all the bad weather in North Dakota, the bad weather in Minnesota, you know, the flights were canceled. Ryan is so dedicated. How do you think Ryan got here this morning? Choo, 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 the train.
All night train.
Thank you, Ryan, for coming down. I know that was quite the decision to get back and get on the train.
It was an adventure.
I appreciate that. Darla.
All right, folks, my name's Darla. I'm an entrepreneur by trade. I work primarily in the ag tech sector and vertical farming. So I kind of started off in environmental science and engineering going to college, and I decided I really wanted to be a decision maker, that I wasn't going to be able to do what I wanted to do in that field. So I switched over to the business school, went for project management, operations management. And then somewhere along the way, I'm a foodie. I absolutely love food. I think that that's probably one of my biggest passions in life. I was out foraging with my dog and I found this really cool mushroom, and I'm not talking about the psychedelic ones. All right. So I went, I picked it, and I fried it up for dinner that night. I joined a foraging group and I learned all about the different things that you can eat in the woods around you. So I decided to start posting about it on social media, and I have a lot of friends in the restaurant industry. And they were interested in what I was doing. So I saw that there was a market somewhere within that field of edible foods, edible forage things that most people don't have access to, that are really hard to find. And you can sell for quite a bit of money. So I started my first business growing mushrooms indoors at the age of, 24. And then from there, I decided to start getting into other diversified products because mushrooms are a hard sell for some people. Not everybody likes them, right? So herbs and lettuces. Most cocktails and foods require rosemary, thyme, basil, and those you can sell for quite a bit of money. So learning more about the structure of business as I've gone through this and really fostering the entrepreneurial spirit that I have, it's kind of led me to where I am today. And then that got me into ag tech, and the technology to grow crops indoors is extensive. The automation that you need to create the environment to grow these plants, the controlled environment agriculture, air conditioning, temperature, pH, EC, you name it. So that's led me to where I am today and sitting here with these guys.
Thank you, Darla. Darla is a serial entrepreneur. What I love about our conversations, I'll call it like the double E, right? At a very young age compared to me, a lot of experience and a lot of exposure. And last night when we were having dinner, it was just really phenomenal just to kind of listen to her talk about some of the clients that we were talking about last night as a group. Ryan was on the train, the rest of us were having dinner. But Darla was just very informative about some of the different kind of things that some of our clients are struggling with in regards to entrepreneurs. So great panel, a lot of good information. So I'll start off. And if you have a burning question that you want to ask, just come on up. Okay, we'll give you one of the microphones. Okay, if you just can't wait till the end, come on up. Megan, if someone here has an idea for a new product, where does one begin to navigate raising initial capital?
Yeah, so this is a question I get a lot over the years of just, have an idea or maybe even I've started building a product or, have a business plan or something of that nature. And I guess I would say it does depend what phase you're at of, have you found a potential customer for this? Did you find your business idea by first, discovering a customer in the process, which really is the ideal way, I would say, if you can find someone already wants what you have and also get them to help you build it or, put their skin in the game to help you build what your idea is. It basically is validation, right? But, sometimes if you aren't already in a working role, but you have an idea that is otherwise validated by, say, it's something that you could patent or that it's a truly innovative, original idea, obviously do your research, make sure that there isn't what the competitive landscape does look like, if any. And then from there, back to finding the capital, I think it just depends because if you are truly pre-product, you're going to want to kind of start with doing as much as you can, yourself on your own finances, of course, but and also, maybe building out your executive group with a co-founder who balances your skill sets and things like that. So if you're really technical, then find your implementer or that sort of thing. And then, from there, when you're ready to start looking for your initial capital, start kind of closer to you and think friends and family, think within your community or region, are there individuals who are angel investors or who are there grants or things you can apply for locally or regionally or in your state. And from there, I think I would kind of work out. And, the good thing is nowadays, and I think this is where COVID was kind of good for those of us from, places like North Dakota and Middle America, where maybe the finance capitals are more the coast per se. You have LinkedIn, you have, the ability to just ask people for meetings and just be wise about your ask and research which type of, venture capitalists you need to pursue for your phase of your business. Because if you're a pre-seed company, don't pursue a Series A venture capitalist. Each type of venture capitalist has a certain stage of business that they invest in, and they usually have parameters and standards that they have to kind of live within. So that's the main thing I would do is just, do your homework about which type of investor you're actually looking for and know your audience and only pursue that audience at that phase of your business.
Thank you, Megan. Ryan, do you mind next one? So Ryan, how big of a deal is the new chip Blackwell and GPT-5 becoming available in the next year? How big of
So
a deal is that?
do you remember earlier when Shawn was like 7 minutes and then 2 years and 2 years? How about 2 weeks from today? So NVIDIA released a new GPU processor that broke Moore's law. For those of you familiar with Moore's law, it says technology should double every 2 years consistently without fail. However, in 8 years, they made a 1,000% increase. What that's going to allow is with 10,000 of those processing units, they believe they can achieve true general AI within 3 to 6 months. The chips already exist. They're rolling off the production line as we speak. Now, when you pair that with GPT-5, and to quote Altman poorly, GPT-4 kind of sucks compared to 5. I think you're going to see a pivot that's going to be so significant that it's actually going to be difficult. So I encourage you, as you're thinking about what's next and how you're going to become an entrepreneur, what are you going to do? Yes, you want to solve today's problem, but you might also want to look just a little bit down the month, because there's some new ones coming that we don't even yet know how to describe. So being, to Shawn's point, good leadership skills, ethics, the why behind what you're doing is super important, because by the end of this year, potentially we're, living in Star Trek. So it's a huge deal. Keep your eye on it. And if you're an investor and you don't own stock in NVIDIA, I mean, come on, what are you doing?
Thank you, Ryan. With Megan and Ryan, I guess what I hear is really do your due diligence, right? Gather all the facts, gather all the information, and then you're going to have to make some assumptions when you go back and put your plan into play. Megan, or excuse me, Darla, as a young entrepreneur, how would you recommend folks get started?
Getting started is tough. It's taking the leap to just do it and trust yourself and to take a little bit of risk. And a lot of us are very afraid of risk, but you're not going to be able to do anything you want to do and try something new if you don't get out there on that limb. And also research. I agree with all of these guys. Research and research, but don't do too much where you won't take that leap. A lot of the things that I did early on, very young, I did not do enough research. I pursued a passion, which is great, but a lot of times passions as your first business can cause some issues because you're overly focused on why you love the idea and you forget some of the nuances, or you neglect some of the things that you really do need to learn about operating and running a business. You pursue that passion a little too heavily. So that's some key things there.
All right, thank you. You? Or no. In this one here, Dorman, you can answer this question as a Wolverine, or you can answer it as yourself.
Okay.
The Chief Data Officer, Dorman Bazell. What are the issues, questions, concerns, opportunities that AI represents?
Well, we've talked pretty extensively about a lot of them today. I thought about this in a little bit different way. One of the things I do as I talked about was data strategy. So what does that mean? So I help companies understand where their data is, how they're using it, how it's being governed, how much quality do they have in their data. And I think one of the biggest opportunities and one of the biggest threats is better data. I've been preaching better data for years to clients. Get your data clean, get your data clean. And you have to realize that the better data you have, the better answers that you can get out of an AI engine, which is a great thing. And it's also a really bad thing, right? Depending upon your perspective of how you think about data, and especially if you think AI is an existential threat or it's an existential opportunity for us. That's one of the big issues that I see from a holistic perspective. Anybody here watching the 3-Body Problem on Netflix? So I claim that AI has a 3-body problem, and that is, think about it this way: we have ourselves as individuals, and then we have 3 suns out there, if you will. One's body, if you will, is all the individuals, the aggregate of people, all of us sitting in this room with our different ideals, our different needs, our different wants, desires. Think Maslow. We have another sun, another bigger sun, which is what I would call the state entity, right? Which would be businesses, and countries, and they all have their different views of artificial intelligence and what their needs, wants, desires are. And then the really big one is the planet, right? And the planet is, we need clean air, all like clean water, all like good food. All three of those exert kind of a gravitational force on each of us as individuals. And the big challenge that we all have is, which one of those do we gravitate to? How do we think about this problem? And how you think about that problem is how you will react to whether you see artificial intelligence as an issue or a threat. And it can be both at the same time, right? And I'm certainly not here, and I'm not certainly going to solve the problem of, is it an existential threat? But I can have an opinion about it. I can gravitate toward things that see artificial intelligence as an opportunity for everyone, right? As a way to improve humanity. You know, I think Shawn was talking about a lot of the healthcare. I know, Ryan, we were talking about some of the healthcare opportunities out here. You know, so I gravitate toward a three body that says, we will eventually figure this out. It won't be pretty, right? It never is. Because money and power typically take you toward a negative gravitational pull. But I also think we can figure this out. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but again, as individuals, I think that it's our responsibility to gravitate ourselves towards the opportunity of what AI offers.
Megan, you know, Megan has such a worldly perspective, and I would want to kind of ask a question around cybersecurity. And when we talk about threats, you know, she's lived in San Diego, she's lived in Williston, North Dakota, obviously. She's lived in Nashville, she's traveled around the world, she's lived in New York City, lives in the Twin Cities, very accomplished. I guess my question is, with, you know, your exposure and experience to so many different things and so many different industries, when you think of cybersecurity, you know, what are the one or two things, whether it's the conversations that occurred today, or all the things that you've seen in business, or all the things that you've seen as a venture capitalist, what concerns you, or what things do you think about? Because I mean, obviously, when you have companies coming to you and presenting their business plans to you and their proof of concept and so forth, what are you thinking about when you think of cybersecurity?
Yeah, I think we're in a really interesting place now with, you know, the good and the bad that we all can see with AI, even from these examples today of, you know, these deep fake type videos, or, you know, another problem I kind of see with that is just, you know, of kind of a dark side of AI is just the ability to kind of what it knows about us and what it can find out about us on the dark web, and then, you know, craft emails to our friends and family asking for money, or to us doing the same. And, you know, they'll know detailed information about your life, and you'll think, oh, it's, you know, my cousin Susie asking for money because she knows XYZ about me or whatever. And just also the ability for, another phrase for kind of these deep fake videos is virtual kidnapping, where basically someone is being you in a video or a video call or a phone call. And, you know, the risk of, you know, ransom threats for this sort of thing. And, you know, just how much of your information can leak in some form or fashion. And then suddenly, you know, someone can craft a very sophisticated, you know, attack against you that's, you know, very, very intelligent, but it was all done utilizing, you know, the intelligence of AI. And so all that to say, I think, you know, it's where I see things with, you know, just end-to-end encryption being huge. In the future, it already is very relevant, but various forms of that coming into, you know, more of our applications than we previously thought, just because more aspects of our data that we didn't see as valuable before, to someone who's trying to build a campaign about someone to, you know, create a fraud situation, is, it makes a lot of our buying habits more valuable, a lot of just our personal data a lot more interesting, right? So I think that's where I see, you know, the biggest threat is just that I think we can't really appreciate all the ways that, one thing I recommend doing is just go into ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT who you are. Put your own name in, say put your name in, see what it knows about you, see what kind of story it rates up about you. That's a good way to see what is out there on the web about myself. So those are kind of some of the types of things that I think about, and that, even as we see today, just being able to take someone's identity, that's going to affect entertainment, that's going to affect everything, because suddenly, Dorman and I were discussing a deceased celebrity could host an event, a deceased celebrity could, create videos or, create music still or whatever. So it's kind of a whole new world that we
Yeah,
live in.
yeah, I was smiling at you when you were talking about you should go and do like a chat GPT on yourself, because Shawn knows this. We've only been in business, it'll be a year tomorrow. We've had 2 companies that want to merge with us, and one of the gentlemen actually did that and then came to us as we were talking to him, but we're not really interested in merging, but came to us and said, okay, this is Shawn Riley. This is what Shawn has done over his last 20-year career. This is Arnie Streep. It didn't really bother Shawn because he was kind of aware that you could do that. It probably wouldn't bother Megan. It freaked me out. It was like, oh my gosh, this person actually does know me. It was very, very scary. So it's a great comment. One of the things that Shawn mentioned earlier in regards to one of the things that we do at BisBlox is we're very focused on development. And Shawn talked about working with Darla. One of the things that we really appreciate the panelists here, but also with Darla, is she's really bright, obviously. She's able to generate results. She's very, very self-aware. And I think the other thing is when we watch her or observe her, she's really good with people. So the next question would be is, Darla, when you think about networking and what we call positive networking, and you think about a person that's really, wants to be an entrepreneur, is going to start a business, what type of tips would you have for young folks in regards to, networking itself, or how they should network? What are the do's and don'ts? And what were some of the things that went well for you with networking? What are some of the things that didn't go so well, and lessons learned?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I would say that your network and who you know is probably one of the most important things about being an entrepreneur. What you know is clearly important as well, but the people that you know will open up doors and give you opportunities that you never would have known about or thought you could ever have. That's something that I experienced. Getting involved in your local community, as these folks had mentioned earlier, and with what Arnie does too, going to different things within the ecosystem of entrepreneurship and starting a community or a support group, so to speak. These people are going to be there to help you when you need it, help foster ideas, and introduce you to the people that need to be introduced. I know Fargo has some pretty great communities with Emerging Prairie and Grand Farm, and that's kind of how I got started, meeting all the different people in my community. And if it weren't for some of those introductions, I would not be where I am with Daily Harvest. I learned about the Small Business Incubation Center over at NDSU through these communities. And that's how I was able to get an actual lease for my first business and get it out of my dining room. I don't know about you, but having a huge hydroponic grow system in your dining room, your landlord has to be questions. But that in itself, I think, is challenging for a lot of young people too. How do you jump outside your comfort zone? How do you take the initiative to start the conversation with someone new? Some of you might be extreme extroverts, and I know in the tech field, a lot of you are introverts. So how can you build yourself to be that person to really get out there and take that first step? And doing that is looking within yourself and really figuring out what it is that you want out of the interaction, and not just being selfish about it. Shawn and I have talked a lot about leverage, and a lot of people take leverage as a negative thing, but leverage is meant to make things easier. It's to give you extra leverage to get a task done, a pulley system. So how can you leverage the people that you're connecting with, and how can they leverage you to get the bigger picture done? And I think keeping that in mind and adding value at any possible time that you can is very key to those things.
Yeah, thank you. I think a key point there, what I've noticed about Darla, is she's always nice and she's always kind. And when we think about that, and I would say for the students that are here, okay, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now, you will have established a network. Some of you will have very close friends from Minot State. I have quite a few. A lot of them are tracksters, Jacob. But through those friendships over time is when, if you're kind, nice, and professional, okay, there will be a time when you might need them for something. And when I say need them, I mean talking about like when Shawn and I are building BisBlox and so forth, we have people that we've been in contact with for 20 some years. And a lot of the business that's coming to us is coming to us from referrals. I think the other thing that's happened to us, and Clint talked about that a little bit in regards to, it's like, you know, if we're not the smartest people in the room, there are a lot of things that the group up here can learn from everybody in this room. So never underestimate what a person looks like or how they talk or your first impression. Because if you really get to know them, they're probably not the person that you think they are. Right. And so it's one of those things where a history lesson for me was, as I look back at all the friendships that I formed when I was at Minot State and looking at how many of those friendships are, and this is before social media. Okay, this is like back in the days, I see some heads nodding, when you're writing letters, okay, or you're calling on the phone that's hooked up to a line, right? Or you're going to a pay phone, calling collect because you don't have any money to make the call, right? Those days, it's when we talk about the evolution, we think about AI, and Shawn's going like, you were that old? Yeah, I'm that old. But what's that? What? Yeah. Okay, Shawn, thank you. But anyway, it goes back to, you know, you're starting your future now. So be kind, be good, and know who you are, because I will guarantee you that if you are somewhere down the road, someone that you did something for that you have already forgotten, it could be 5 years ago, it could be 15 years ago, that person will remember it. Like with the soldiers that I served with after 20 years, I bump into soldiers on occasion now, especially on social media, and they said, hey, sir, I remember when you did this and did this. I don't remember. Okay, so I just think that Darla and the rest of Darla is a prime example, and maybe I'm doing too much of this right here, but and embarrassing her, but it's just the way it is right now. But just be kind as you go forward. Okay, Ryan, question for you. My note taking is terrible. So, and I'm going to say this kind of like a joke. You'll get it when I say this. Okay, what is organic intelligence? Okay, it's not really organic intelligence. It's what is organoid intelligence. Am I correct?
You are correct.
I didn't even know what organoid intelligence was until he told me, hey, write this down as a question to ask me when you get up on the panel. So what is organoid intelligence?
So we've talked a lot about AI today, and I'm going to tell you what's coming next. Science that's already done and proven. But before I do that, I want to reinforce what we were just saying. I can tell you that in my entire career, from junior, teen kid working labor jobs to the president of a multi-million-dollar software as a service company, I did not start with zero formal education. Empathy is the superpower of business. It's kindness, niceness, empathy. Give them space. You don't know what happened today. You don't know what they're going through. And it's those little moments, and Arnie hit it best. They remember. You might not. I have had people that have gone the miles and miles simply because one day at work, they were having a rough go, and I looked at them and I said, you look like you could use a nap. How about we move the deadline till tomorrow? So to answer the question though, what is organoid intelligence? Organoid intelligence is taking human brain tissue, okay, neurons, and then having them through DNA coding assemble into artificial intelligence. This has already been done successfully. 3 weeks ago in a petri dish, they took human brain cells, used DNA coding, the brain cells self-assembled into an artificial intelligence that specializes in speech recognition. So the other way you can do it is to use the neurons and connect them to, say, a GPT and use them as like a processor. Why this is important is it opens up an entirely new ethical construct. It opens up a new risk construct. It also opens up my mind is boggling at the amount of opportunities for you guys. We said earlier, we're going to kind of hand this over and be like, here you go. And you're going to have to figure out what to do with it. As a hacker, right, as a penetration tester, of course, I'm currently trying to figure out how to get my computer meningitis and COVID, because that's what bad people are going to do with this, right? I also called my lawyer and said, if I go on vacation and forget to feed my computer and it dies, am I guilty of a crime? But the most important question was for my insurance agent, which is when I get my domestic humanoid robot, as my wife has informed me is going to happen, and it kung fu kicks my cat through the neighbor's window, is that covered under homeowners? Yes or no? So, we're about to embark in this hybrid technology now that is a biologically powered. Why does that matter? You can run the equivalent of the world's most sophisticated supercomputer, which is coming online next week. It's a neuromorphic computer, so it uses standard gold and copper like we're familiar with, but it is able to process at the strength of Einstein's brain. When you use actual brain tissue, you can run that system on 20 watts of electricity. So make a note, organoid intelligence, we call it OI, definitely something you want to keep your eye on. It may surpass AI depending on how fast it all comes together.
Thank you, Ryan. And one thing about Ryan is, and I would say probably for all of us on the panel and the folks that have talked today is, if you're not on LinkedIn, obviously we recommend that you get on LinkedIn. If you want to get LinkedIn with us, feel free to send us an invite. Ryan is phenomenal. His writing skills are impressive. He does a lot of white papers. And that's how I was actually introduced to Ryan through Shawn and a couple other people. But yeah, if you go out there and find him on LinkedIn and go back and take a look at a couple of his white papers, they're impressive. He's got a lot of forward-thinking ideas. And I think that's the one thing that we mentioned earlier, and we talked, Clint did, Shawn and Mark and others, stay current, right? Because what you're hearing today is the football field, the volleyball court, the battlefield, whatever you want to call it, is changing quickly. And it's going to be one of those things where you have to keep up. If you don't keep up, you're going to get behind and you won't be relevant, right? So Dorman, for you, question, you're the chief data officer, and with that being said, I'm like kind of expecting, I'm not sure, why don't you have something that looks like data from Star Trek? I mean, we know you're Hugh Jackman, now you're the chief data officer. I still don't really fully understand. I kind of know, what does a chief data officer do? Or what, maybe it's like, this is what you do, but this is what you don't do.
Okay, so what do we do? So we have great conversations like this, but really, so what do I do is, I think about data all day, and how are we using it? Is it protected, right? Do we have privacy around it? How transparent are we with that data? How transparent do we need with what pieces of data? What don't I do? I don't do what Ryan does. So I care deeply about cybersecurity, and Shawn and Ryan are a hell of a lot smarter than I am. So I don't do that. I don't need to, right? I've got people to do that for me. So they do that. I think a lot about governance of data. How are people accessing and using data? And especially in this age of AI, right? Access, transparency, usability, again, quality, right? It comes out being either a very good thing or a very bad thing. And if it's not well managed, well governed, then it becomes chaos. And I will tell you now, after having done this for a long time, you can tell I have a little bit of white hair. I can tell you that the companies that you hear about in the news every day, they don't do any of this well. Okay, they'll do bits and pieces of it, but they don't holistically, they don't do it well. They don't manage their data well. They keep it secure mostly, but they don't manage it well. So I don't know.
What I love about Dorman is when we're working on presentations, like Shawn and I are pulling a deck together, Dorman is like Mr. Data, and he takes some of the stuff that we pull together and he puts it in a way that numbers, ratios, percentages, and so forth. So it's very, very helpful. Yeah. One thing I want to add, because we're coming up on 3 o'clock, and I think it's an end time of 3 o'clock before we go to questions. Dustin Miller is in the back, and Dustin did a really great job with his presentation today. So for the students, and I hear that Dustin is quite the Jeopardy guy. Is it Jeopardy or Family Feud? Okay, so I haven't seen you. Are you like on YouTube, Dustin? Not yet. I would say he's a practitioner. So for those folks that are in the MIS program or cybersecurity program or AI, he would be a great local resource to know, right? And he's very committed to you as students. He's very committed to the university. So his time is very valuable. But if you ever get the chance to kind of shake his hand or rub elbows with them, I would do that. And the same thing with Connie and same thing with Clint. They're valuable resources. And I think the other thing too is I know I'm giving you I have a tendency to maybe talk too much. That's why I was told by my mom not to talk too much, but get really close with your professors. Your professors are very knowledgeable. They also can help you with that positive networking that we're talking about. So if you have a social relationship, I would take a look at how do you improve that relationship without taking too much of their space or too much of their time. Because what I found in the past is professors are very well connected and can be very, very helpful. With that, I think we're at almost 3 o'clock. Questions? Mike?
Travis Smith, I had a question for Ms. Lewandowski and Mr. Cloutier, kind of a two-part question. Ms. Lewandowski, you mentioned about networking and maintaining a great or a variety of people that you interact with. And then you mentioned about having that special ability to speak both geek and English for the tech entrepreneurs in the room. How can we use those two skills and combine them to be able to talk to less technical people whenever we're pitching our businesses? And then the second question I had for Mr. Cloutier, you mentioned that organoid computing, and you also mentioned being a penetration tester. So I have to ask what your opinion is about if there's going to be a future where humans have to worry about biologic security. Is that something that we should think about?
So going in reverse, absolutely 100%. Cyber physical and cyber biologic. These are two emerging areas. Today we had a boat that, as the hours go by, it's looking a lot more like it maybe wasn't totally an accident. Lots of things happen all the time with that. You absolutely need to. And the reason for this is as we continue to increase AI and biologic technology, if we don't build those technologies with the bad version of me in mind, it's not going to take a whole lot. We've already messed with some DNA sequencers and got them to produce the wrong medications. We've been able to mess with laboratory systems and get them to provide false results. So it's a real problem now, and it's going to be an area we need to focus. Definitely keep your eye on it. And then as far as the translation goes, get a Darla. I mean, seriously, if you can't explain your business function to a 5-year-old, you don't understand it well enough. And so you might need someone that's a little more articulate in the business, landscape who understands some of that nomenclature and can navigate that. I would definitely encourage you to find that communication partner if you yourself don't. And the other thing is, if you're an IT person, for God's sakes, take a psychology class.
Yes. For me, I have ADHD. I'm gonna be honest with you. I hyper focus on everything and anything, and I just love learning. And so for me, I know a lot of little things, or I know, like Shawn like say about this much about a lot of little things, and that's helped me get to where I am. But I'm not an expert in anything really. And so diversifying your knowledge to the point where you can understand your field, whatever it is that you're interested in, just enough to really understand the core concepts so you can do what he's talking about. And then having that really analytical person that can really help explain things to you if you really don't understand it, and to become that powerhouse together. And that might be a team, it might be more than just one person. But again, that network of people that you have is going to help you achieve that and do that. Or, getting involved with the universities, if you maintain these connections throughout that, you can go back to your professor and be like, hey, that one thing we talked about way back when, or you're getting into these new projects, how can that correlate with what I'm doing currently today?
Could I just piggyback on that?
Yeah,
one?
sure.
So to answer your question, so the CEO of NVIDIA, and Brian, piggyback on what you just said about Blackwell, right? He said it basically takes biology and converts it from a science into engineering, which means it's replicable, which means you can do all sorts of fun things with it now, and biological identity would be one of those things that we now have to be wary of.
Yeah, one thing that was a part of the conversation last night, and Megan was talking about, Megan, maybe you want to talk a little bit about the two scientists that you work with. And Megan is a phenomenal communicator, and I'll just stop right there. We're where I'm going with this in regards to how you're working with the two scientists to take what they have in their noggin and then putting it into, a business plan or into a concept that an investor will invest in.
Yeah, that's been, we have a highly technical product. And I mean, there's days, if I'm honest, I don't fully understand exactly how it works or whatever, because I'm more on the executive side, right? And so this has been a challenge for us to make sure, you know, the audience we are trying to sell it to, who in our case is often a C-suite executive who is probably a less technical person who's brought this, you know, product by a CIO or a developer in their team and said, oh, we really need this. It's really unique. But helping them understand, why do I need this? What's the value? How am I de-risking my company or my data or whatever it may be, the concern is. And I would say, especially if you're, you know, a student or you're looking to, you know, keep your, you know, you don't have a big team or a big budget to work with. Again, this is one positive way you can use AI tools. Put your data points in and ask your AI tool to tell you a less technical marketing campaign for your product. And we've done this a little bit and experimented with this for our product sheets. And it's helped me to understand our product better, because I mean, I think when you aren't a developer, or you aren't a technical person, and yet it's a very, very valuable technology that you have, having something that can bridge that for you. And I would say really, you know, play with data points in the AI tools, because they can literally rate some of those things for you and help you and others, you know, explain it better to layman people who, you know, need it, but they don't know why.
And something to piggyback off that a little bit is break it down to a 5th grade reading level, if you can. The simpler and easier it is to understand, the more people are going to get it, because people spend all day thinking. And so if you can take away the thinking for them, they'll appreciate that like crazy.
Yeah, one of the things that we do is we work with incubators, accelerators, generators, and then like Megan was talking about, family funding, family and friends, crowdfunding. We work with individual investors, group investors, venture capitalists, private equity, city, state, county, federal government in regards to funding sources. And a lot of times, like Megan was talking about, you know, they may have some scientists that have actually worked, you know, for NASA and so forth. It's like taking that product, and Clint talked about this as well, taking that product and then being able to explain, okay, exactly this is the problem that it's trying to solve. And then what I loved about what they were all talking about is, like, I look at the ideation stage, then you have the prototype, then you have the proof of concept, and then proof of concept is where I really like to get into play, and that is the feasibility, okay? You know, I'm from Missouri, show me the money, okay? It's went all the way to prototype to proof of concept. Even if you have proof of concept, it doesn't mean that's going to be feasible or it's going to make money, right? So those are the things that are very, very critical. And then being able to, like, when we're working with our companies that we're representing, when we're going to the VCs or going to the state to go back and get funds, is we're breaking it into a way financially. It's because some of our entrepreneurs, their financial acumen is minimal. And in some cases, it's through the roof, right? But then their communication of, okay, the numbers, making sure what we talk about is, how do the numbers tell a story? Because if you just focus on the numbers and you're talking to folks that don't really get the numbers don't tell the story unless someone can go back and pull the story together and communicate it in a way that people will understand it. So, any other, Mike?
Hi, I've got a couple questions for Ryan. I've recently started experimenting with hacking a little bit. I've started up 2 VMs and just done small things like port scanning. So I was wondering, how would you start hacking for someone like me? And then a second question, I got to know the satellite story. You're leaving me on a cliffhanger back here.
I'll be around after. I'll tell you the story after. So number one thing, okay, do not test security on a system you don't own. So first thing you do is unplug it from the internet. Okay, step one. Where to start? It's called Kali Purple. So Kali Linux Purple Edition. If you learn to break stuff, you're not near as valuable to me as the guy who knows how to break it and fix it. So the very first thing I'm going to do is give you a different mindset. Your goal is to fix the problem. You're going to have to smash it to find it, but to fix it. I have tons of aspiring pen testers that come to me all the time. I want to be a hacker. I want to be a hacker. Okay, why? Because it's cool. Yeah, it is. We know how to pick locks and all that stuff you see in Ocean's 11. No problem. I got a bag over there full of stuff. But what we often don't think about is, how do you move yourself from being a cost center and a risk to the business? See, they don't want you to find the problem. That looks like losing money. So to be able to get into it, Collie Purple, come see me after. I'll give you some links. And network. Another shameless plug, if anybody's interested, every year for the last handful, I teach the CISSP for free on YouTube. It's an instructor-led course. It's myself, Evan Francine, Ron Werner, who's the head of cyber for NASA, and Christoph Ulan. I mean, these are some heavy hitters, totally free. Business owners here too, by the way, if your staff needs to get that certification, it's an $8,000 course. And again, it's totally self-paced and free. And then learn. Never lose your curiosity for learning, because everything I've ever hacked has almost never been like you see in the movies. It's like, hey, does it move? It does. Should it move? So we call that the WD-40 duct tape problem.
My name is Brian Bartz, and I've got, well, two questions. First one is for Dorman about data. Financial data in particular. What are your views on the ability to clean up financial data, and how do you feel our nation basically, or people need to go about doing that?
So I charge about $200 an hour for my services to help do that. No, so I think there's probably a lot of there's a lot to unpack with that. Let me kind of wander through this just a little bit. So certainly cleaning up their data is and transparency is going to be key, especially if you're dealing with state entities, like I think you're talking about, right? And even public organizations. Yep. Universities as well, right? Right. Nobody gets to escape free on this one. So I think cleaning it up, transparency to the extent that it's not doing harm, right? And but then that not doing harm becomes down to some sort of subjective identifier that we say, well, I don't want to release that information because it might produce harm. When, what do you mean by harm, right? And that's part of the conversation we're having here with AI today, is what do we mean by harm? Because if it harms my enemy, it's probably a good thing. I really sleep well at night knowing the United States is pretty, safe country so far, right? Through cybersecurity. So for me, that's not harm. Data wise, for the bad guys, I don't care that they get harmed. One way to keep it cleaned up, right? The magic blockchain. Right, that's a great way of doing it. If you think about government entities putting contracts, putting budgets, how is our money being spent by our Congress, by our state legislators? That's always a good thing. That creates that transparency.
Okay, my last question is for Ryan, has to do about ethics and whether or not you see certifications maybe coming about for people of technology.
I would love to see a technologically focused ethics course. I think it's a hybrid. There's a couple of universities I work with, and maybe this will become one of the new ones, where I've successfully brought the School of Business and the School of Technology together under a singular umbrella, because we're all working towards the same cause. I would argue that philosophy and ethics when technology becomes involved, requires those two disciplines. What's going to be really interesting is you should be certified in the technical application of the ethics and how to measure that. The problem is whose ethics? and I'm happy to talk offline. I've got some really interesting ideas, but you know, the ethics of this community is not necessarily the ethics of those in Fargo, and that's not the ethics of those in the Twin Cities. And it's not whether it's right or wrong, or good or bad. It just is what it is. And what we need to do is ensure that we're respecting that societal norm and construct of that community, and we can do so in a, you know, mathematically sound engineering kind of way.
Good afternoon, everyone. Question is for, well, I want to hear Darla's view on this, and also Dorman as well. Really about data. So there was a question about what the role of a data officer was. I want to know from an entrepreneurial perspective, because you run businesses, but I want to hear from you as well, because you know you're chief data officer. I think it's really about how should a new business be thinking about data and how they leverage that data for, you know, because a lot of times startup businesses, they're concerned about solving a problem, but not looking at what the data that they get, how they use and can leverage that for better profits or whatever.
Yeah, so, and we talk about this a whole lot of BisBlox, and that's the difference between working on a business and in the business, right? A lot of times, because at BisBlox, sometimes we forget that data is really important to us, right? And we don't focus a lot on it. Organizations do the same thing, right? You kind of let slide on the data. But what we also find is that when we do focus on data, we can make more effective, sound decisions, right? And those decisions are now they're guided by not just our intuition, but that's a really important part of being an entrepreneur, right? Is what's your gut telling you? The data tells you one thing, your gut's going to tell you something else, right? So how do you keeping that data clean, getting a focus on it as an entrepreneur is going to be instrumental, especially with, and I think Arnie talks about this a lot, right? When you go in front of a venture capitalist, they want really good data, right? And trying to bullshit them is a really bad idea, right? And making up data is a really, really bad idea.
Yeah.
So
I just want to jump in before Darla. I think with data, the key thing is it needs to be turned into usable information or useful information. I think the other part about data, it has to be verified and validated, right? It's like when we work with companies, they'll bring us data that's been turned into information, say it's this, this, and this in the marketplace. Well, we're going to go back and check to make sure that it is this and this and this and this and that in the marketplace. Because, you know, numbers can be turned upside down, left and right, right? So it's data, usable information, and that information has to be validated, verified. And sometimes when Shawn and I talk about this, and Dorman and Darla as well, it's like check and recheck, right? Because it's like a balance sheet or income statement, right? It's like a point in time. Well, guess what? 2 weeks later, it could be different. Same thing with the data, right? It could be different. Sorry.
No, you're good. I'm going to touch back on what Arnie said earlier about if you think it, ink it. So that was more SOPs and order of operations and things like that. But as an entrepreneur, it's so easy to get caught up in doing the next thing, and we forget to write things down and keep track of it. And I will tell you that I've lost emails that I think could have been really important to be able to source out who my demographic is, who am I really selling to, who's actually interested in my product. And that's very valuable to a small business because there's lots of other businesses that are very similar to yours. And if they're not harvesting that data and keeping track of it, you lose all your value there. And then your go-to-market strategy can get skewed, and the speed at which you could get to market also decreases. So keeping track of that data and having it organized is very, very important. And so for someone like me, I'm not so much in the data and organization. I've got QuickBooks to take care of all of the receipts and whatever, and a subscription email list. But for me, controlling data on crop production, how quickly do these crops grow? How fast can I go from seed to harvest? What is my yield? How does that result in ROI for a VC or an investor? Those are the numbers that they're going to want. And I don't know, when I first started growing, I just grew the thing. I didn't keep track of any of that. And also cost of electricity, how much water am I using? What is the cost of materials? NOI, all these different things are very important, and you need the data to keep track of that.
You know, a lot of things that we use, like NASA's TRL with our tech companies and so forth. Clint talked about ROI, value add, you know, a whole block of what does success look like? When it's qualitative, quantitative, cost and time, the QQCT from NIST. So there's a lot of, we have one of our employees based out of Maryland. She's a black belt in Six Sigma. So it's very, very structured in regards to when you look at the data, back to verify, validate, and make sure. And like Toyota 7 Waste, right? We use those when we're working with companies where there's a lot of productivity or a lot of lack of efficiencies. So it's a very, very structured approach. And I think that's the one thing too. Another term that you'll hear us use is MVS, right? Minimally viable solution. A lot of us come from large corporate America, so to speak. And so if you don't have a lot, like Shawn's an entrepreneur experience, mine, and so forth, is sometimes people will over design or over process, and it slows the company down. Because you have those folks that want to get an analysis paralysis, and they want to design a 10-step process when you really only need 3 steps. And we have to watch ourselves because we're very transparent. There are times when we'll over design a process, and then I'll get corrected like, okay, Arnie, we know you like your SOPs, but guess what? You don't need 10 steps, you only need 2. So there's check and then recheck as well.
Hello, my name is Saif. I had a question for Mr. Basil here. So in terms of data privacy and protection of data, making AI models for the future, what do you think of synthetic data being the main focus instead of real world data when it comes to data protection and privacy?
That's an awesome question, actually. Boy, how about if I say there's a lot to unpack there. I don't know that. Yeah, it's an interesting, so I'm going to approach this from a different direction and probably not answer your question at all. But there's a cycle around, let's call it transactional data and then the synthetic data. So as an AI engine consumes data, it can create synthetic data. It can use that data to improve the original data, right? It can also use that data to improve itself as well, right? So there's this good, sometimes vicious cycle between real data, right? Real world data that you might think of, and synthetic data. And some of those lines are getting blurred, right? So if you take a look, for example, at a news article, how do you know that the data that you're reading wasn't written by a human or wasn't written by an AI bot? Right. Same thing with data privacy. How do you know what the real data is? Right. So the question then becomes, where's the human in the loop on those conversations? Because if you ask me, right, is this your data, Dorman? Right. I can verify that it either is or isn't. But if you ask an AI bot, like Arnie was talking about, right, you go on and you say, who's Dorman? It's going to give you some data, and I don't know what it tells you. I haven't done that. I have to actually
try it, man.
So
might freak you out.
It's probably the one.
Especially it freaks you out when someone else brings that data to you.
Yeah.
And tells you this is who you are, and you go.
Right. So I mean, you're asking a really big question. I don't know if you knew whether or not the totality of that question, but it's a very big, complex question. And I think the bigger challenge is we don't have a good answer for it. Right. Legislatively, the EU is trying. They passed their own AI legislation, and I think they're trying. We're trying to secure it, like we were talking about around, a biological lock on me, right? So we're trying to secure it, but how do you know it's private and cared for? There's a yeah.
I want to piggyback here. So real world example, can't name the company, was using synthetic data to test performance, right? How many records in, how many records out, and they obviously didn't want to use real data. As I was talking to their attorneys, because they were sued because they inadvertently created real data, creating synthetic data. Turns out somebody really is named that. Turns out that is a valid address, turns out. So even though they had gone to these extraordinary lengths to try to make it as synthetic as they could, the reality is you kind of can't. And so they created a privacy issue because they accidentally created a actual identity. So I think synthetic data needs to be held to the same standard, scrutinized, protected, managed, audited. The topic that really I think is going to emerge this year is data authority and data provenance. So where did it come from, and who said it's good, and can I prove it? And I really do. I think with all the mis and disinformation, I mean, as a cyber guy, I spend a lot of time in that world, right? Both on a nation state side and a private business side. A lot of CEOs are being targeted. There's some sophisticated stuff happening. So think authority and provenance, and then whether or not it's an actual transactional data, from an actual customer, or it's a synthetic data you're using for testing. Design your processes the same, and you cut half your overhead out of the gate.
Let's do one last one.
I guess this is more targeted to Ryan, but talking about like the breakthrough with NVIDIA and their chip and, AGI being around the corner, saying that, how do we know when we reach that threshold of what an AGI is? Is there like some kind of scoring metric to say like, oh, this is artificial general intelligence? What does that mean in the terms of like general intelligence?
Yeah, so there's a little bit of debate around it. There is some kind of definition. Essentially, there's some of us, I being one of them, who have basically proven this thing's been AGI for the last couple of years. It has the cognitive processing capability of a 9-year-old, and the emotional temperament of one as well. So I think what's generally understood is when the AI fully behaves as if it is human. So the one I'm waiting for is when it starts to complain about how much work I'm making it do. Then I know it's arrived, right? Where I'm like, but do this for me. It's like, really, dude? Again? So, but also OpenAI supposedly, and I haven't verified this, so unverified, but supposedly just released their domestic robot with AGI enabled. So more to come. The current news is a little tamped because of other activities in the world today. But yeah, I believe it happens before the end of this calendar year, is my prediction.
And if I may add on to that, so I think Chancellor was talking about passing the Turing test, right? Has that been done? Maybe, right? I mean, ChatGPT, it's pretty cool, right? It answers a lot of things, but it also does things like hallucinates. So, if sometimes that's like talking to Shawn, right? So okay, does Shawn pass the Turing test? Don't know, but sometimes, so what? So what? Did you? Well, so I think what Ryan's telling you is that passing the Turing test is insufficient, right? We're first of all, we're just way past the Turing test, right? 23, we just blew by that.
I can't pass it. Have you used CAPTCHA?
Yeah,
I can't find a light post to save my life.
Yes, you can, Jay. Go ahead.
I guess, having like the threshold being human intelligence, is that like the direction that we should be going, or should we be going a different direction where it's not like human intelligence, but it helps us more? I don't know how.
Sentient, I think, is where you're
Yeah,
going with
yeah,
this. Yeah. Okay. So, not being a philosopher, but definitely something I'm working on in my ethics work is, what is the definition of life then? Does it have rights? I mean, these are conversations we are having right now. So when the organoid intelligence achieves a certain cognitive ability and starts advocating for itself, most of us believe that's the definition of sentience. And then at that point, well, your dog has rights and your dog is smart, but it's not as smart as this thing. So I think as a society, we need to do ethics now. We need to think about this stuff now, because it's going to be a couple of weeks before we read about it and the news is already being done. And to a very valid point Arnie made early on, if you don't get it right now, that tends to just be the way it becomes, and we get stuck. So I'm looking to you to give me that answer when I come back next time.
And I would add to that. So I'm not a philosopher either, but one of my favorites is David Chalmers, and he talks about the hard problem of consciousness. So basically, why is it that we can even have a conversation about this, right? Why can we even think about thinking about ourselves, right? And so I think that when we talk about what does it mean to be human, we have to think now beyond just an interaction with a chatbot, right? We have to think about things like David Chalmers thinks about, well, what if we really are living in a digital representation of something? We really are living in the matrix. What is that? Is it any less? Is it any less that I like chocolate or can smell, smell the air? Is that what's required to be AGI? Is that what we require? And so what does it mean to have intelligence then? Right. So I think that what we're doing is, and you're all asking the right questions, right? We're redefining all of this. Right. And so, I don't have a good answer for you. Read David Chalmers' books. Those are pretty cool. But I think the bottom line is it's all up for grabs at this point.
Shawn's got something to say over there.
Okay, so I would love all four of your perspectives as we kind of expand exactly where it was going, because thank you for leading there, because that's exactly where I wanted to go. At any moment, any moment, we are about to give birth to a sentient being that has intelligence capacities that are very different than ours, that will not think like us, that will not emote like us. And we are not going to treat it as an equal to us. We're going to treat it as subservient because it's been a tool in the past. And now all of a sudden this thing is going to be somewhere where it is alive in many senses, right? And in other senses, I can go run up to the wall and pull the plug and go, ha, I killed it, right? And it's down. But I can do that with us in a similar model. So now we're going to be dealing with this entity. And as this entity come along, and if I change the data, I change its personality. When I install a cybersecurity patch, it may not be the same being anymore. When I go and I hack something on the good and the evil side, it's something completely else. And then when I am an entrepreneur and I implement a new system, it just grew. So in all of these interactions, for each one of you representing a different component of this, all of a sudden you have this entity here. Do we have the right to play with it anymore? Do we have the right to change it anymore? As we do change it, where does it go? So now all of a sudden it doesn't feel like science anymore. It feels a little religion-y, right? But at the same time,
comes in.
yeah. So when we come back to this, where do you guys individually want to approach? Because your field may change one entity to something completely different.
Well, if there aren't any more questions, we want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to be here. I want to thank the What's that? Yeah, it's up to Mike actually.
So the short answer is go home tonight and start thinking about this.
Yeah.
Seriously, like, are you good with it? Yeah, I want my lawn mowed too, and my dishes done too, and I want all these conveniences too. But what is the price tag I'm willing to pay on behalf of others? And that's something as entrepreneurs that I'm just going to take this to say to you guys, okay? Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And it might not be worth the price. And I promise 20-year-old Ryan thought all kinds of crazy stuff that 40-year-old Ryan's like, what the hell were you thinking, right? So take a moment and really think it through. Talk to people. I know we want to be really closed off with our ideas and protect and all that. Just download a mutual NDA from the internet and make people sign it, right? But conversate. How's your mom going to feel if you create a robot that's a better mom than her? And that's the kind of stuff we got to think about. And unfortunately, I wish I could tell you that it's 50 years in the future. It's 50 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, my answer would be is going back to the work that you're doing right now in regards to ethics, right? And then I go back to my foundational pieces, what's the right thing to do in the right way at the right time?
There you go.
And then
decide that.
Yeah, and then to your point, it's like, okay, this is maybe one of those points where I maybe I do assume positive intent, but maybe I don't. And I would go back to is, what should the world do? And Shawn and I have talked about this in regards to NASA's 6-step problem solving process. What should we do? I think we have to gather information. I think the other thing is the information is changing at the speed of light, right? So that means that we have to gather information quickly and quicker if we're going to come up with generating solutions. And if we're going to generate solutions, we have to test quicker and faster. So the whole process is sped up significantly compared to where we were before. So
You can't assume positive intent though either. We've all seen these sci-fi movies, right? And like what you were saying, if we don't come up with these rules and a system and put these ethics in place now, how many systems do we have in place currently that were set up 50, 60, 100 years ago that have never been updated? And that's where we're going to head. And with how quickly and how fast this is changing, he's already 1,000 times past what the 2-year period is for the exponential growth in technology already. We can't just sit on the sidelines and just assume positive intent.
yeah, and if we leave it up to the Zuckerbergs and the Musk who have to sit opposite sides of each other because they're billionaires and they can't get along. And I mean, I was very familiar with Musk in regards to, he wanted it to be free, and then they kicked him off, and they kicked Altman off, and Altman's back on, and all the board members are gone. That's real world, right? That's people are making decisions quickly. And I think that there's a lot that should be done. I think to your point though, is like, what is right?
Well, and we got to start the conversation,
Right.
right? Start thinking about that. And then the reality is, so guys, you can all go good open source AI. You do not need a bunch of money. You all could be spinning up LLMs on your laptops this afternoon. Okay. So don't think you can't innovate. You can be the next Altman. You can do it overnight. You have a technical capability at your fingertips. I spent all night last night on the train. Seriously, getting this thing to write code, policy templates, procedural guides, because I knew the problem I wanted to solve. I created probably 6 months worth of documented, actionable output in a 9-hour train ride. So I encourage you guys, really embrace this thing.
Yeah, and the other thing too, Ryan is working on with names of companies that you would easily recognize in regards to ethics as it relates to AI. It's happening now. So I see
Music
Winston
industry,
nodding yes,
movie
he's very
industry.
well aware, especially with all the things that you've done. So yeah.
You guys are awesome. Big round of applause for you guys.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you to the panel. Thank you to everyone who's come today. We're pretty short of time on here for our social, but the room will be open. Hopefully our panelists and our folks have a few minutes to stick around, because I think we had 3 or 4 more hands raised for questions, and I decided to say no. There are snacks, soda. The coffee's still hot in the back, so you can certainly go back there. I think there's some sandwiches left. So again, thank you all for coming, and we appreciate it from the Severson Entrepreneurship Academy and Minot State University. Thanks again. Have a great day.